But in the last 40 years, we have lost 1/3 of the arable lands. And we also have to add the environmental threats from the climate crisis. So for us, if we really want to ensure a sustainable future, we need to take care of our soils. And it's great to see how here in India, which is a country that is leader in agriculture, you are very aware of this, and you are taking actions for protecting your soils. So what is health soil? If we agree that only living things can have health, then we should look at the life in the soil. And it's really amazing the quantity and diversity of life that we find and the role that they play in key processes in the soil. We at Biomakers, we use the soil microbiome that includes bacterial and fungi communities as a bioindicator of soil health. And we connect this to the digital world using technology and artificial intelligence. So with our bcrop technology, we transform soil microbiome DNA data into functional and ecological predictions. We also compute in situ and remote environmental data. We integrate agronomic insights, and we also learn from trials with bioproducts. So the result is a unique soil intelligence platform for soil management and recommendations. And I say this is unique because we've been processing samples and training our models for 10 years. We have validated the technology through different scientific publications and also through different patent applications. Some of them are already granted. This is an example of our most advanced solution in which we can map and predict for the first time microbial metabolic pathways at the farm level with high resolution. And this serves, for example, to identify deficiencies or disease risk. We can also recommend bioproducts where they are really needed and also assess the sustainability of the farm. Today, we are selling our bcrop technology through three different solutions that address the needs of the stakeholders across the whole value chain. So we have a price per test model, for example, for the bcrop test and the bcrop for trials. And also we have a price per acre model in the case of a bcrop farm. This is our team. The company was born in the United States, in California, but now we are a global team. We are 50 professionals from different disciplines and cultural backgrounds, and we have also the support of a very experienced advisory board. Today, we have a global reach. Our scaling strategy is based mainly in building a global network of partner laboratories that operates under our standard procedures, and also building strong partnerships with key actors in the whole ecosystem, from farmers to ag input manufacturers or large food producers. And I'm happy to share that now we have also presence in India, thanks to a new agreement that we started with Agrocel, a laboratory called Agrocel. So if we win the prize, we will definitely use it to promote this collaboration and to contribute to protect the health of the soils here in India. We really believe we are having a very positive and real impact, and that's why every year we release a dedicated report. For example, we have been able to reduce by 20% the use of agrochemical fertilizers. And just to finish, we are always like to say that better soil is better food and better life. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation. We now open the floor for committee members to pose their queries.
Thank you for the presentation. You talked about numerous stakeholders in the partnership and collaboration. Can you talk a little bit about the feedback loops and any evolutions that you've returned to the system, and specifically feedback from farmers themselves?
You mean if we receive feedback from the farmers?
Yeah,
yes,
how that's built in, and have you seen or developed product evolutions based on that feedback?
That is really important for the product development, because sometimes the farmer receive many data and very complex, and they say, okay, but what do I do with this? So we are working hard to translate this complex information into actionable insights, so they can take actual decisions for improving the soil.
And has there been any, lessons learned or evolutions or changes based on some of these inputs and feedback from?
Oh, well, sorry, can you repeat?
Just obviously with farmers at the core, have there been any inputs or feedback directly from farmers that have led to different changes in the product development and cycle and the work?
You mean, oh, sorry, I don't understand. I believe she's wanting to understand the feedback of your users, the solution users.
The user feedback.
What is the feedback from the user group? Be it be farmers or someone else, what is the feedback that you've received?
Yeah, it says some of the feedback, it relates to our digital platform, because they can get the results, they can track the status of their samples through our portal, and also get the results and the reports, and they can also use different tools. So sometimes the feedback is in that direction, I don't understand how to interpret this result, or I found it difficult to combine these two indexes, I don't know the meaning, so that's the kind of feedback we normally receive.
I think the question is, because of the feedback, what changes to the product you have done to date, if any?
What is?
How has your product changed because of any of the feedback that you have got?
How is the product changed?
Yeah.
We are constantly improving the user experience in the digital portal, mainly. And also, sometimes we are also improving our microbial indexes, so they can fit better what is expected by the farmer.
In case there are no further queries, we can wrap up this presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Now we have a team from India presenting Resilience 360, which is a climate risk management and resilience tool. We now welcome them on the stage.
Thank you. Namaskaram, India. And a very good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samhita. I represent Resilience AI. We are going to talk about natural disasters, where we believe is a true application of AI to solve a problem that touches each of us in this room. A $400 billion losses, 394 plus disasters, and please remember, 3.5 million lives lost. This is not just rural and urban locations of US, India, Philippines, Japan, but this is also our businesses, our supply chain, and more importantly, trade and livelihood. It impacts every industry, and that is where we come as practitioners of natural disasters, technology, urban planning, architecture, finance, and economics. This team is rooting for each of us today on natural disasters coming with AI from North America, Canada, and India. What have we built? We have built a single window system which can be accessible by any of you in this room in any capacity using a login and password. What does it do when you log in and you generate it using your password? You have 4 things at your discretion. Intelligence number 1, data sets are abandoned, but will you be able to understand flood velocity, Would you be able to understand a hydro if you are the CEO or a CFO of a company? If you are an administrative officer responsible for your jurisdiction and administration, would you have the time to understand what is an urban heat island effect? The answer is a simple no when we started it with our research. What we are doing is at a location-based level, at every hyper-local structure, including the building we are in today, give you an answer of what is the magnitude of damage to 6 types of natural disasters in 30 minutes at 96% confidence. Great, now we understand if the structures we live in, work in, our children are going to schools in, our warehouses, our stocks, our revenue, everything is locked in, it's safe. What's next? Next is compliance. It's a very critical component of the entire conversation, and we are solving it using generative AI by giving you a resilience factor where we are mainstreaming how you should define resilience, because there is so many conversations and definitions about resilience in climate. Moving forward, what we are also doing is ground truthing it, and this gives evidence to the fact that we are science-based, we are aligned to the 3 chakras of this mission that we stand for today, we are part of the PM 10-point agenda, and we have been recognized very humbly by Ministry of Home Affairs, National Disaster Management Authority, which is the nodal agency to decide whether the software has the science, has the intelligence, and is credible. We are also very ground-truthed in our intelligence in terms of the village and urban. Natural disasters does not discriminate whether you are living in a rural India, rural America, or you are living in an urban city. We have deployed this with United Nations in 84 villages of India. We are deploying it in 8 cities. We have been working with data centers and hospitality sectors with Mahindra, and the customer trail has been going in. In less than 9 months, we have generated enough revenue to be able to start expanding. We are targeting a market of about 50 billion, which is our operational market in 3 countries. If I tell you the slide in the first one, and you had the devil in the details there, 3 countries contribute to 50% of the disasters in the world: North America, Philippines, and India. And we are going to serve these countries by making them resilient. Our go-to-market is very simple. We believe that this is an ecosystem play. We do serve the government and the business enterprises directly, but we have a very strong channel partner base who are taking this deployment as part of their service tool. We have been growing very poisedly. In the last 2 years, we have locked in about 200K revenue, and we are moving to more than 10x growth, breaking even next year. Why Resilience 360? That's my last 59 minutes. The journey has been phenomenal. We are novel. There is a copyright and patent file. The copyright is secured. We are valuable. Everybody wants and needs to solve natural disasters for business resilience and your city resilience. We are scalable. You can use the same tool for India, for anywhere in the world, and we have been deploying it in multiple countries. We are doable. All you need is an ecosystem. We are not an analytics player. We are much more advanced than it in the way we are using the science and making meaning out of it, and we are using the algorithm at the back end. Thank you so much for listening in to us, and we are open for questions. I'd want to invite Sandeep Reddy Malu, my co-founder in this journey, to also join me for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team, and thank you for sticking to the time limit. We now open the floor to the jury members to pose their queries now.
I have a question. What are the outcomes? Is it more preventive or is it more recovery in terms of the Resilience 360 outcomes?
Is there a language model around it? Do you want to take the language model around it?
There are 2 parts of how we have looked at the language model, sir. One is a visual language model that helps us to understand the current land pictography of evolving landscape over a period of time. So we have a custom-built visual language model that helps us understand the change in terrain, change in vegetation, change in physical structures that are being built, degraded, damaged. That's step 1. We take that as a baseline and combine it with change in climate indices that happen in a given area or a period of time. So we are able to say that in a given year, when there was rainfall of, say, 200 mm in an annual basis, what has happened from an inundation standpoint, when the landscape shifts, vegetation is removed, new roads came in, how does it impact permeability of the soil to absorb water? We have an ability of a secondary model that makes these step 1 inferences and combines that with climatic change models to make the conclusions of what has been a shift in risk. So that's how we have 2 broad categories of paths that we have, sir.
I'll just add a content to that. The science that we have trained the machine on are three sciences. Science number one is climatic. When you have heat, you have to understand temperature, but you also have to understand what is the wet bulb temperature indoor. Both of them come together. You have to understand precipitation. You can't take that in silos. So we have taken that cluster of information. The second science is geological. Geological means what is the proximity to a water body? What is my wetness index? Is my soil moist enough? That has a huge relevance in how the urban heat island effect suddenly starts framing as clusters. The third data information that is proprietary to us is the 8.9 million structures which we are very proud of, where we have been studying built environment, whether you're an RCC structure, whether you're a virile structure or a tarpaulin, or you're an engineered wood structure, because these are there across the world. We have been annotating them and feeding them back to the machine learning to understand it in correlation to geological science and in correlation to climatic science. Why do we do it? I'll give very simple example from our lived experience. We come from rural India. A mud hut is better in extreme heat than an RCC structure, a concrete structure. A mud hut is more vulnerable to flood than an RCC structure. Even better, if you are a bamboo structure which is standing, which is the northeastern belt, the hilly regions have them, it's even more sturdy. So having this combination made more meaning to us when we were solving for hilly terrains. And as I say, there are 17 plus geoclimatic terrains. It was more meaningful to us to have this combination in training the learning model.
And a related question is, has there been an example of that you can show where urban planning has got bettered because of using your...
Okay. Since we are too early in the ecosystem, the answer is the response we have given for Dharali in India, which has happened, and we have made a submission to it, that had Resilience 360 been deployed there, we would have told you that debris is going to flow in this region. But more importantly, we would have told you that the tourist center was highly impacted and the building that was just beside it would be left untouched. That is the intelligence that we have been able to do it. We have just finished it for Chantal, which is a storm in US, and we are building our presence in North Carolina. Both the government and the community has been overwhelmingly accepting us as part of the ecosystem. Thank you so much.
We have time.
Thank you for your presentation, team. The next presentation is by Element Tech Circle Private Limited, which is providing an AI-powered smart meter intelligence and demand response platform. We now request the team to come on the stage.
Do you have a... Thank you. 300 million. 300 million was the total population in India in the year 2012 without any access to electricity. And that number stayed with me because it was roughly around the same year that I decided to move to the United States to pursue my master's degree. And a quick search on the total population of the United States at that point showed up that same 300 million number. And really, that is the scale of the problem that was in place in a country like India. And the vivid picture that I had in my mind while I moved to the United States to really look at addressing this problem. Over the course of the last decade or so, we've provided access to electricity to that entire 300 million, and today provide affordable access to power to 1,400 million and counting. Now, I know that's no mean feat because I want to remind everyone that we've come so far, but there's such a long way to go because the origins of our entire work and efforts were built around the two extremes that we see in India. The electrification story, and then what we've seen with solar, for example, we've 100x'd in terms of deployment over the last 10 years. Today, solar is the cheapest form of electricity generation anywhere in the world. But at the same time, if you look at the GHG emissions, India is already the third largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. But at the same time, if you look at the per capita emissions number, we're 103rd in the country ranking list. And therein lies the dichotomy of the largest population on the planet, but at the same time, a country that's still very much in its growth, development, and advancement stages. So as the expanding economy and with the influx of AI and all the compute, the task that we have ahead is to decouple growth advancements from emissions, something that's been particularly challenging for entire countries around the world. Now, where do you start? That's the question that we asked ourselves. Two things in this particular slide that I want to highlight. The cost of electricity is the highest today in India for the commercial and industrial sector. On average, they pay 40% higher. And what we said was we'll go after this particular segment because India is also building close to 700 to 900 million square meters of urban area. And really the stat that really led me back to moving back was India is building the equivalent of a Chicago-like city every single year for the next decade and a half. That's the sheer amount of construction, development, and growth this country is sort of seeing. Now, all of our work started at IIT Madras, and the work we've developed, tested, validated, is now a showcase at the IIT Madras Research Park campus, and my entire solution that we've developed is going to be a case study that I'll walk you through over the next 2 slides. For context, we're a 1.2 million square feet commercial complex housing about 5,000 people, 250 corporates, 100 startups. Our average energy consumption is about 70 megawatt hour per day. We've sort of looked at how do we address this from an end-to-end manner. Essentially a 4-pronged solutions approach: efficiency, generation, storage, and then management. This is a quick analysis of efficiency. We have done a geospatial modeling to understand the heat gain within the facility. And if you can see that picture on the bottom, it shows that one particular building, which is the west-facing facade, is exposed to 30% more heat gain. That means I'm spending, for the same room, same size, just because it's oriented in a different direction, 30% more energy in just cooling that space. We're using AI to optimize, learn, and solve for problems like this. On the energy generation piece, solar and wind, as you all know, is already scaling. What we've done is also build out storage. This is a thermal storage system, a 300,000 liter tank at the basement of our facility. Whenever there's excess solar or wind, chill water, store it in the tank at 6 degrees Celsius. Whenever there's a deficit, use that chilled water for cooling and all of the cooling requirements. Now, the layer on top of this is managing. Real time, you need to optimize and essentially manage all of the energy generation, storage, and the usage that's happening. And what we've seen is the AI layer on top is solving for all of this. And our entire journey was documented through the Zero to Green open source library, where we found that there was a 35% reduction in costs, bringing down our electricity bills by 42 million in a single year. This approach is what we're saying is scalable across the country. And just quick 30 seconds before I close, this is a statement that was put out by Anthropic, which shows that they're going to cover all infrastructure upgrades in the grid. And that's exactly the direction with which we've gone. Essentially, we've tied up with the Ministry of Power and essentially deploying demand response programs for AI optimization of the entire state of Andhra Pradesh. We've signed up with industrial and commercial customers to essentially manage the demand and supply of electricity. The problem, which can be highlighted in the graph below, shows the cost of electricity at 12 p.m. on a regular afternoon at the exchange goes down to 0.3 rupees because there's so much excess. And on the same day, 8 hours later, it's hit the market ceiling of 10 rupees. That's what we're here to solve. The problem is that solar, wind, and renewables is intermittent. We're saying at a geospatial modeling level, at the building stack, and then at the systems level, we can solve for this through our intelligent powered systems, which is optimizing it real-time 24/7. I'll sort of close with just one quick statement, in that solving for the energy problem is imperative for AI, but solving it right and in the green manner is imperative for our planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your inspiring presentation. We now open the floor for questions.
Thanks for that. How do you guys, or how would you charge for your solution by integrating the energy sources, but also creating the intelligence layer? What would you be charging, and how would you be charging it?
So we're, in the grid example, we're working with the DISCOM of Andhra Pradesh. We're not charging the DISCOM anything. We're providing this service to the industrial and commercial customers, and they pay a flat subscription-based fee to us for accessing the demand response program, because we're also seeing savings at the consumer end. So on the DISCOM side, we're providing this as a service, and we're charging the individual customers a flat subscription-based fee. And what we're now also piloting with the Andhra Pradesh project is a pay-as-you-save model. Because we've now benchmarked and seeing close to 35% savings, we're saying if we can provide a certain benchmark of savings, can we get a percentage of the savings that you make? Essentially helping create a win-win-win scenario for the grid, customer, as well as us as a company.
Thank you.
In case there are no further queries, we can wrap up the presentation now.
Thank you so much for patiently listening.
Thank you, team. We now request Forus Health Private Limited to come on the stage to deliver their presentation. The next team that will be making their presentation after Forus is Vaisa. We request them to come to the stage where we can get them mic'd up and prepared for the next presentation.
Shall we get started? Namaskar and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shubhajit Banerjee. I lead the AI development activities here in Forus Health, which is a medtech company based out of Bangalore. Today I'm here to talk to you about a condition called retinopathy of prematurity, which is one of the leading causes of preventable blindness, and it affects newborn preterm babies, right? Every year, millions of such babies are born, and studies suggest that nearly 1 in 3 of these babies would end up contracting this condition, in some form or the other. In the very severe cases of ROP, the retina literally starts detaching from their eyes, which is what you see the onset of that in the image towards the right. So governments all over the world is taking it seriously, not just our own government, but all over the world. And they are drafting policies and guidelines to ensure that we can have and achieve universal eye screening. Yet, even globally, we are very far from having this 100% coverage. One of the prime reasons for that is an alarming shortage of specialists. In India, especially, the number of ROP specialists as low as 300 only. And the ratio is not much better globally. If you add to this the fact that traditionally ROP screening is done by hand, as you can see in this image over there, you could already see the scaling problem. So one logical thing to do is to use digital cameras so that you can delegate the responsibility of capturing images to trained clinicians, and then use telemedicine platform to review and diagnose. However, even in that case, doctors still end up spending more time reviewing than actually treating. So ROP is also not just a yes/no binary classification problem. If you are talking about in a machine learning point of view, it has multiple dimensions, and you have to characterize it properly for you to understand how to proceed further. Add to this fact that aggressive ROP needs as short as 48 hours to be treated, and the telemedicine workflow typically will take at least half a day or 1 day for the report to reach back to the parents. This is where we feel that AI can really add value, and which is where our first ROP AI solution comes in. So we are able to properly characterize the crucial aspects of ROP, such as the zone, the stage, and whether it is aggressive or not, and pre-fill it, and which will help triage the cases based on the severity. The other problem is that of image acquisition itself. So I'll try to start this video, hope it plays. This is how a typical ROP screening looks like. And if you imagine that you are the operator here, holding this very fragile infant in your hands, who is already screaming in discomfort, right? It is natural for you to feel rushed. And you may, miss out important things that you had to capture. So this is where our second ROP AI solution comes in, which is meant to serve as a real-time guidance so that operators can capture better images at the source itself, right? So the idea is that we have to ensure that critical cases don't slip through due to the lack of photo documentation. So we are designing the system to be platform agnostic. We have our own line of neonatal cameras, but we are training it with a mix of other cameras as well. And we intend to deploy it as a RESTful API service, which can be hosted in the cloud, in the hospital's local LAN, or it could also be deployed on the edge. The idea is to first have our own ecosystem have these features as de facto offerings, and also we'll be open to third-party integrations as well. We intend to conclude our clinical trials by end of Q2 of this year, and then followed by regulatory submissions. Subject to approvals, we hope to start rolling out in a phased manner by the end of this year. So one of the most critical challenges of operationalizing AI, especially in the medical domain, is the last mile delivery, right? In that respect, we already have the full stack, starting from affordable hardware to the telemedicine platform, which we are already using to scale up many different ROP programs happening throughout the country, and also across the world. We don't necessarily need to depend on any third-party integrators to bring our AI to see the light of the day. We also have a global footprint. We are there across 60 countries across all the habitable 6 continents. And we have possibly the largest market share in terms of the device and the solutions when it comes to ROP care. And finally, we at Forus Health for the past 16 years have been on a mission to eradicate preventable blindness, not just in the neonatal domain, but across the entire eye care spectrum. And we hope that our ROP AI solution will help us continue with the momentum in our mission. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We now open the floor for questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. To understand your presentation better, can you explain basically you're selling the service or product?
Your voice is, I'll just come here. Hope that's better. Yes, please. Could you please repeat?
I would like to ask what you're charging on. You're selling the hardware product or you're selling the services?
We have the entire ecosystem. So as of now, we started our journey with the hardware products itself. So, so we have been selling our ROP cameras for almost 7 to 8 years now, across different parts of the globe. We also have our telemedicine platform, but we have a very modular architecture. You can buy only our device if you want. You can use only our telemedicine solutions if you want, or you can only opt to have our AI solution integrated with your rest of the ecosystem.
Thank you. I had a quick question. How have you worked with the community, the medical community, as well as parents? And I'm just wondering if there's been any concern around the technology or how you've been able to introduce it to new communities?
Yes. So absolutely, we would not be here, without the support of the medical community. And this is something which actually comes ground up. Like the pain points that we are able to address is actually coming as feedback from the community, clinical community, because they see it firsthand that babies are going blind, and there's hardly anything that can do about it. We are just glad that we are able to, provide the technological partnership for them. With regards to the babies and how to deal with the parents, usually we are working in technical collaboration with the hospitals or with the clinics. But at the same time, if you see how the procedure is, as a parent, your heart really goes out to it. But at the same time, it's a temporary discomfort. It hardly takes about a minute or so for you to do the screening, but it is for the larger good, right? So if premature babies are born with certain conditions like low birth weight and low gestation period, then you are meant to have this follow-up multiple times. Like we know cases where every week, almost for 10 weeks, babies have been followed up, right? So that is how it works.
This one. I was just trying to understand, your hardware is already out, and the ROP cameras and all of that. The AI portion is work in progress right now. And so has that been tested so far anywhere, or what has been the result of any beta testing?
We are very close to starting clinical trials right now. So we are still refining the models with the data sets that we have collected so far. It is very close to starting clinical trials.
So it is work in progress.
It's a work in progress.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you also share your background, please?
Sorry. Can you please repeat that?
Can you share your background, please?
So 11 million people covered, 6 million people served, almost 1 billion conversations on the platform. We are the largest evidence base in the world with more than 40 research publications, multiple clinical trials we've been doing with Harvard, Columbia, and leading researchers in the world. And very highly rated on the Play Stores. And we now work with 9 insurance companies across the world, multiple employers, multiple public health agencies, including the National Health Service. We cover 30% of the NHS today, and the Ministry of Health in Singapore, where WISA is being offered as a service to the entire population of Singapore. So this is truly a service or a solution built in India for the world. The underlying technology platform, it's a neurosymbolic AI architecture. So mental health, as you can imagine, is an extremely, extremely sensitive use case. So it has to have a dual, the architecture needs to manage the empathy and the conversation ability and the richness which a neural architecture gives you, but it needs to undergo and fall within a certain protocol which a symbolic architecture gives you. So we've spent a lot of time, we've spent nearly now 8-9 years perfecting this, and being deployed in institutions like Aetna, the NHS, the Ministry of Health in Singapore, have given us the resilience and the robustness and the outcomes to actually go out and saying that we really do know how to do this as best as anybody else in the world today. It is still an evolving battle, it's an evolving story, but it is also an extremely, extremely big need. So we do have a patented approach to our triage product, so where we understand what people are feeling and direct them to the right level of care. We are FDA ready, we are a breakthrough device designation with the FDA for our work in chronic pain, which is that the overlap of mental and physical health. Again, a space which is extremely hard to serve in traditional healthcare systems, but with AI you can actually expand access. So, and this is a quick snapshot of the kind of people we work with. So multiple insurance companies, travelers, Vitality, you will see leading names in the world from who are using the service, and also in philanthropy, where we comply with NHS clinical safety standards, DCP 0129, ISO, and so on and so forth. So there's a huge amount of work we've done to make this safe and robust. The product it's now much more than a chatbot. It is evolved, and it is now a multimodal hybrid service, which allows a clinician to engage the patient, send them digital homework, keep them engaged. We also have a triage product, which allows patients to get to the right level of care, which is the one which is currently deployed in the NHS, where we're covering about 40% of the adult therapy network in the United Kingdom today. Very quick snapshot of what the WISA platform looks like. It has the 3 elements, the eTriage product on the left, the patient engagement tool in the middle, and what we call the co-pilot, which allows the clinician to interact with the patient. Highest evidence of any digital mental health solution today. We work with leading institutions, research institutions of the world, and we have proven outcomes, including a 40% reduction in depression and anxiety symptoms, improvement in chronic pain, symptoms of chronic pain, pain interference, and physical function, and a host of other things, including being adjudged best in class on privacy and safety by the Mozilla Foundation, which again is one of the leading watchdogs of privacy in the world. Why India? So this is almost, the wheel has come back. So we built something in India, it has gone out into the world, it is now currently working at scale, and now we're bringing it back into India. And what we're learning is that it has actually, we have to unlearn what we have done. So I started the project, this is my last slide. So I've started we started the project by saying it's a chatbot for mental health. And then we found out was when we were trying to deploy this for adolescent girls, there are 400 million adolescents in India, about half of them are girls. A chatbot doesn't work, mental health doesn't work. So now you have to do something which is a combination of a digital and a physical intervention to allow for safety as well as access. So I'll give you an example of what it looks like. So it's a book, it's a workbook which is targeted towards the adolescent girl. It has QR codes which allows the girl, even if she is using a shared phone, taking a phone from a mother for 2 hours a day, it goes and creates an anonymous, completely discreet and private conversation on the web, which is validated and robust. But at the same time, this is being distributed through a school and through the teacher. So the parent is confident that this is actually kosher, and it is actually being given to the girl with their consent. And it is being supported by the ministry. For example, right now we are working with the government of Maharashtra, Women and Child Development Ministry. We are currently deploying something in Punjab. We won a $7 million 5-year Welcome Trust grant to roll this out in UP. And we are also working with the government of Meghalaya to develop and distribute this and take it from preventative care towards post-diagnosis support as well. So this is a topical reason, there's a very, very topical need today. AI can help solve the problem, but it needs to be integrated with real world implementation support. It needs to be integrated with human beings. So we're learning a lot on the ground, including things like this workbook, which we are calling Dream Kit. I'll just leave a copy for you here. But that is an example of bringing AI. We started with, I think, a sample size of 1. So we were building for AI for 1, and now we've ended up building AI for all. So thank you. I'll just take questions.
Thank you for your presentation. We now open the floor for questions.
Is this voice enabled and multi-languages?
Correct. So,
okay.
Sir, our Maharashtra work is in Marathi. We are also translating this, adapting this into all Indian languages, including Hindi. Our UP work will be in Hindi. And we are also doing voice. So we have a voice prototype currently in production, and we're going to deploy it very shortly.
And how do you ensure any privacy of conversation, or is there any aspect to that? And how does, let's say, somebody in the family get alerted about a particular situation if it is going into a crisis?
Sorry, I think if I understood the question, you're saying how do you ensure privacy?
Yeah.
And safety.
And safety.
And safety. So we spend a lot of time on that. And so we comply with NHS clinical safety standards and so on and so forth. The product is anonymous. So you give yourself a nickname. I can call myself Rajnikant or Superman and have an entire conversation with WISA. So that is extremely important to build user trust. You remove that initial stigma and hesitation as well. In employer context, for instance, when the person is anonymous, they're not worried about this going into the manager, saying that they had these conversations about work or the manager and so on and so forth. So that's one. So it is anonymous in nature. And the second is, there is a lot of work now. The underlying architecture has changed from a rules-based decision tree architecture when we launched to now a prompt chain using API calls into a family of LLMs, which we are doing now. And there we are doing a lot of work in preventing or both in the input level as well as at the output level We're doing a lot of filtering. For example, PII reduction happens if you make an API call to an LLM. And there's also a risk stratification saying low-risk cases can be invoking LLM API calls, but high-risk situations revert back to the symbolic architecture. So that is another way in which we do this. We have user panels which make sure that you reduce or mitigate bias. So there's a lot of work we do in managing
At what point
security.
do you involve a human in this whole decision making or supporting, or is all AI driven?
Sorry, is the revenue? I'm sorry, there's a lot
No,
of
no, not revenue. At what point do you involve a human in the decision making?
Humans, during the product development phase, it's a safety by design, the entire architecture. So humans, clinicians, we have about 50 clinical psychologists on staff. So
no, I'm not talking of the development. I'm talking about
at the So at that point, it's there is a step architecture or a step care model. So the initial part is done. They say the initial assessment and the referral happens on a chatbot architecture, and there are 6 points of escalation where if the user wants more advanced support, including when we discover that they are in SOS or they're in distress, and that's a much larger. We are probably the world's leaders in thinking about safety architecture, where you push people onto a human being. But there's one point I really want to make, which is where LLMs today or AI today is failing in mental health is in SOS, is where because of liability issues, most people are in a hurry to escalate people out into a helpline. And what we have found is about 10% of the people whom you escalate and saying, oh, I can't handle this because it's a liability issue, talk to somebody. 10% of the people who are in extreme SOS actually reach out and talk to somebody on a helpline. So the system is failing.
The quality of your service, against mental health.
I'm sorry, you'll have to, I'm very sorry, the echo is really bad.
Yeah, how you are evaluating the effectiveness of your service against mental health?
How are you evaluating the effectiveness of your solution?
How are you evaluating effectiveness? Well, we have 45 research publications across various parts of the touch point, including safety, accessibility, usability, as well as outcomes. We have done 4 clinical trials, randomized clinical trials. We have a huge host of publications which are telling us that this is working. And I think the challenge or the interesting opportunity now is to take what we have done globally and to unlearn and relearn and deploy it through mechanisms like this into, for example, we are now rolling it out in municipal schools in Maharashtra. So what we have done in the NHS in the UK or with LifePoint Health or Ascension Health in the US is not going to work in Raigad. So we have to relearn. We are doing a lot of impact evaluation work as well. Our work with the Wellcome Trust in UP, it's a 5-year clinical trial to actually first create something which is, this is pre-diagnosis. So what we are now doing is also the post-diagnosis intervention for adolescents. And there is a stepped evaluation, first a product development, which we will evaluate, and then we're doing it, pushing it through a formal clinical trial. So there's a very, very stepped process which we're doing for our impact work in India.
In case there are no further queries, we can wrap up the presentation now.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, team. The next presentation is by Varha Global Consulting Services LLP. It is an India-based firm which is working on Semantic AI.
Hi everyone, a very good afternoon. I'm Team Vajra Global, here to present Sagar, Semantic AI Governance for Accessible Rights. The World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report 2025 states misinformation as #1 top global risk by the year 2027. And India, it's predicted to be the global risk #1 by 2027. It's not cybersecurity, it's not threat, it's misinformation. At the same time, things are changing fundamentally. People no longer access portals. They don't navigate through websites. We rely on AI systems to be able to receive our answers. When public websites were built, they were built for humans to read and not for machines to interpret. And when AI cannot understand reliably, it fills the gaps with inference. And that's where misinformation begins. Not because information was wrong, but because it was not completely understandable. Let me make this real. How many of you here knew that you could update your mobile number linked to Aadhaar using the M-Aadhaar app? Okay, great. So that was a problem that I was facing recently because my dad's number was linked. I got to know that you can update, and I rushed to my trusted search buddy. I checked over to see how to update. It gave me a very structured, confident answer on how I can do it. Nothing obviously wrong, but it's not entirely right either. It still asked me to go visit the Aadhaar Seva Kendra, and that's how confusion starts. It's not fake information, but it's partially understood information. We see this across many situations. These are some headlines, places where brands were affected, places when victims and citizens suffered. The issue isn't absence of data, the issue is interpretation without context. Machines assemble meanings from fragments of data, and when that structure is not semantically arranged, it can't make an interpretation. Over the last decade, governments have done the hard work of digitization. Thousands of websites, millions of portals, and today, millions of us accessing these services online. And that effort matters. It expanded drastically and brought governance closer to citizens. But again, to reiterate that these systems were built for humans to read, remembering customer experience as the core and not for machines to interpret. Today, we search for clarity, search, help, and relief through AI systems. And when meaning gets compressed, trust becomes fragile. And the consequences are not just human. They lead from financial losses to reputation risk, to enforcement burden, and even erosion of trust. So instead of rebuilding what already exists, we want to make what already exists just machine readable. And that question led us to Sagar. Sorry, okay. Sagar is not a chatbot, it's not another portal, it's a foundational infrastructure layer. We studied how AI consumes web information and it retrieves fragments and infers meanings from unstructured text. Our approach is to remove the interpretation that AI does today. We analyzed the entire website and we create a connected system mapping services, eligibility, and processes together. We then build a semantic knowledge layer, creating machine-readable meaning while preserving context. This creates a parallel knowledge layer over the existing CMS. Nothing changes for the citizen, it's just how AI views the same web content that is created. We are not changing the website, we are enabling machines to make them understand better. And if we step back a little, it's not just a system upgrade, because when reliable information becomes more accessible, inclusion improves. People don't need to interpret reasons themselves or navigate multiple portals. Policy actually reaches people the way it was intended to. And that's what AI for all means. It's not just smarter interfaces, but safer access. To make this at national scale, the model matters too. We propose a public-private partnership aligned with India's TAC principles. Citizens access trusted information freely from the channel they choose. Ecosystems integrate responsibly. Revenue sustains and continuously improves the infrastructure. Inclusive and sustainable by design. The shift is already happening. AI now mediates how citizens interact with state. If we keep reacting manually, we can either keep reacting manually or we can fix foundation at once. Hundreds and millions benefit without...
But potentially, we have created simulated websites, like the government websites, and tested through, and we've been able to see good results with that.
Are you also in conversation with a couple of stakeholders, maybe state governments or maybe institutions, public institutions, to provide maybe testing on their data or their initiatives?
Yes, we are talking to different stakeholders, both in where we come from, Tamil Nadu government. We've been talking to a couple of the departments there. We're also working with some of the other players as well to work through this. So that's part of why we had also applied for this competition, so it will give us the access to go through with this.
And how's the response like of all these stakeholders?
I think it is definitely positive. This is looked at as a very key concern because the whole idea of inclusivity and ensuring policies defined are reaching the citizens is a key element that every government is looking at.
And if you can talk about going forward, what will be the kind of revenue model once some sort of traction gets start building up? So what kind of revenue is, will be a kind of subscription, or how it will pan it out?
So I think Pranati touched upon it a little bit in terms of a public-private partnership. The way we are looking at it, because we are looking at it as an inclusive, citizen-inclusive kind of an initiative, we want to make sure the infrastructure layer that we build is actually made free for the government website so citizens can easily access it through the channel of their choice. But we could also make this data available through APIs for businesses. And that would probably fund the entire process. And it can also continuously improve the overall feedback and learning over a period of time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. Before we move to the next presenter, I request the jury members to kindly keep the mics closer to their mouths so that it's easier for the applicants or the presenters to hear what you're saying very clearly. And to the presenters, in case you are facing trouble hearing because of the echo, you may use the podium. Podium is a much better place to hear clearly what the jury members are saying. Having said that, now we can get to the next presentation. That's by Core Stack, a digital public infrastructure for climate change adaptation by Commons Tech Foundation for Participatory Technologies. I welcome you to the stage now.
Hi, this is working? Great. Yeah. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for having us here. I'm presenting on behalf of our very unique startup. CoStack is a network startup. It's a team of many different organizations and individuals who have come together, from computer scientists, environment engineers, product managers, designers, to build this stack. So I'll begin to explain what we're doing. Through very deep immersion into rural areas, we try and really identify what are the key problems that people are facing on the ground and different stakeholders. So for example, from the standpoint of policymakers, water security is a big issue. And they face a question that structures like this farm pond on the left, which is unlined, it's helpful for drought protection and it helps improve groundwater recharge. Whereas the one on the right is a lined farm pond, which is actually used for pumping groundwater and for storing it. Which of these structures is most suitable in a particular landscape? How many such structures can a landscape support? That's important from a policymaker standpoint. For communities, similarly, many communities want to revive traditional water sources and systems where, for example, nutrient-rich runoff that makes its way from hills, forested hills, that's very useful. How do we revive these systems? Where do we get the funding? How do we make that whole process smoother? And all of this in today's context where rural communities have very strong aspirations for social mobility, economic mobility, but how do we make sure that it's all together within the ecology boundaries of that particular landscape? The way we are doing it is in a digital public infrastructure manner where we have brought many different geospatial data sets together. Many of these are models that we've built ourselves on how land use is changing over time, canopy density, tree health, water stress, how is it all changing over time. On top of these, we build different kinds of models for extracting intelligence, almost like a root cause analysis that what kind of a problem is a particular landscape facing and what solutions are most appropriate. All of the data and layers are openly accessible through APIs. The data sets are openly shared. And on top of this, we are also building applications for different kinds of stakeholders. So I'll demo some of these. Know your landscape is to understand how in a particular landscape, what are the diverse sets of problems that are being faced so that program managers or district officials can design interventions appropriately. Commerce Connect is an app in the hands of the community. Somebody in the field, a community volunteer or an NGO frontline worker who can actually build a micro plan that where exactly in this village should we have a farm pond, where exactly do we need check dams. And similarly, this is really an open ecosystem. We're already seeing many people who have started to build on top of this. So we'll quickly look at this demo of the Know Your Landscape. Let's see if it works, yeah. So for any state district tehsil, we get that description. Here, for example, you're seeing a terrain layer which sees which areas are plain areas, which areas are slope. We've got rainfall data sets. We can identify which of these areas are drought prone areas, which of these areas have a higher sensitivity of surface water stress. So now in these particular areas, some particular, a very targeted intervention can be designed. These kinds of reports come out automatically, which present statistics on different land use, how things have changed over time. So for example, which areas have seen degradation, that crop areas have degraded to shrubs, or how is cropping intensity, tree cover changing over time, surface water stress, rainfall, evapotranspiration, groundwater stress. All of this information is available in one place. And the next level of intelligence that we're adding on top of this is really customizing all of this to understand what's happening. Similarly, we've built a unique way of describing landscape entities. So we automatically identify surface water bodies. Here we can see how is the water availability changing over time. What is the cropping pattern around this water body? How has that changed over time? Where is this water body located in a particular landscape? And all of this is very helpful from a policymaker standpoint. Yeah? And we'll go to the next, right, which is now an app. This is now bottom-up, right? What I showed earlier was top-down. This is an app which is now in the hands of a frontline worker, that they can actually go to that location. It's also available entirely offline, and they can build plans in consultation with the community. The key part over here is participation. And so the way it works is that they sit together with the community, they see what kind of works have happened in the area, so that the community can also discuss what kind of works are happening in our village, what works are happening in other villages. These are other layers that show what kind of groundwater recharge is happening, which areas are good for groundwater recharge, and so on. Yeah? So as a result, after all of this process is complete, these kind of forms are filled in consultation with the community, that what kind of demands does the community have for different kinds of water structures. And these forms can be filled with dimensions and such details, and that can be put forth for taken to the Gram Sabha and Panchayat and so on. I'll quickly wrap up. The key part of all of this is that it's already, over the last 1 year that we've been in the field, is being used by in 800 villages. It's led to a lot of reduction in time, and it's helping improve the quality of planning happening in the area. People have already started to build on top of this. We're running an innovation challenge where people are building new kinds of solutions using all the data sets. To make all of this financially sustainable, actually we need to work with the community, and our whole idea is that how do we empower the community steward so that they can more effectively build such plans, be in the village, one person per panchayat, and build these plans with the community. And for that, we are building a dashboard where all of this is entirely visible, who's working in which area, what kind of plans they're building. We attach projections that as a result of this plan, how much groundwater will be saved, how much carbon will be sequestered, and so on. And our goal is that in the next 5 years, can we enable 25,000 such landscape stewards to come forth and have a platform where people can come, they can commit funds to funding these landscape stewards. Yeah. So I'll stop here. Like I said, we work with a very large network of partners, and this is all done together with everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. You touch upon it in the last slide, but can you tell us a little bit more about the team itself and their areas of expertise and how you think about scaling with partners?
So was the question, what are the expertise of the different partners? Yes. So I myself, I'm a faculty at IIT Delhi. I teach in the computer science department. So I bring some of the computer science kind of background in terms of analysis of remote sensing data, satellite data, machine learning, AI, all of that. We work with then environment organizations like Well Labs and Atri, who have a very deep expertise on hydrology, on ecology, all of these aspects, as well as a large of our partners are actually organizations, implementation partners working on the ground. So they are the ones who are actually bringing the problem statements and establishing the community interface.
So from your point of view, who are the real beneficiaries of the system that you are developing? Is it government authorities or is it specific communities? I mean, I was not able to figure that out.
Yeah, so in theory, the platform is a digital infrastructure, so anyone can build on top of it. But the key constituent for whom we are building is a landscape steward. So this is a person from in the community, a community volunteer or an NGO worker who can use these tools in consultation and participation with the community to improve the overall resilience of water security, forest restoration. So we're adding more and more domains and modules into our overall stack. And
are there a couple of examples that come to your mind in terms of real positive impact or major impact so far?
Examples of how they've
impact.
used it?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So many of these plans have already been submitted to the Gram Sabha and they have also been approved further on. So these are largely about, a lot of it is around what's called watershed development, ridge to valley approaches, that where can we have gully plugs to improve groundwater recharge and what is the downstream catchment that they would influence. So many of these farm ponds and check dams have already been sanctioned by the government. So that's one kind of a trajectory. Similar up and get it going. We're gradually moving there.
In case there are no further queries, we can wrap up this presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, team. The next presentation is by CarbGem Inc. We welcome you to the stage now, sir.
Okay, good afternoon. Namaste. My name is Masa Nakajima, CEO of CarbGen. I'm coming from Tokyo, Japan. Now, India is facing one of the world's serious threats around antimicrobial resistance crises. But root cause is not lack of antibiotics. It is the lack of rapid microbiological interpretation at the primary care settings. That is the problem we are solving. Across India, especially in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, there is a severe shortage of trained microbiologists and technicians, professionals. Ground stain interpretation is often unavailable at night, on weekends, or in remote areas. So physicians or doctors need to prescribe broad-spectrum antibiotics empirically, which means just in case. This accelerates antimicrobial resistance, which is AMR. This is not a technology gap. It is a human resource gap. And AI can extend skill expertise. So BITE is an AI-assisted ground stain interpretation system. It works with existing microscope and any smartphones. A technician or microbiologist take a picture of the images from microscopy and upload it securely, and wait 10 seconds, they can receive AI interpretations, which means that no new hardware is required and no workflow disruption will be expected. BitA supports laboratories. It does not replace it. We have a demo movie, but because of the time constraint, I want to skip this time. Okay. So trust is very much critical in healthcare AI. BitA Urine is approved in Japan as a Class 2 software as a medical device by the PMDA. It was co-developed with leading university hospitals in Japan, and in a peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Medical Microbiology, BitA demonstrated non-inferior performance test compared to the microbiology specialists. This regulatory and clinical foundation makes BitA deployment ready. Technically, BitA is built for real-world lab conditions. It uses multi-level deep learning to handle polymicrobial samples, variable staining quality, and constrained network environments. It is resource optimized and cloud-based. Importantly, this system is human in the loop. The clinicians and doctors always remain in control. BitA creates measurable impact, the faster preliminary assessment, and better antibiotic targeting, and reduced unnecessary antibiotic use. And our business model is very much simple. This is B2B subscription, which means no upfront capital investment is required and no equipment replacement is required. This makes it highly suitable for district hospital and diagnostic laboratories. Affordable and scalable and sustainable. This is our core philosophy and value propositions. And our expansion strategy is structured. First, PMD approval in Japan. This is already completed. And second, local validation with Indian partners. We are trying to find a good partner in India to roll out this project. That is why I came here this time. So I am very happy, very open to find any proposal to work together. And third, integration into digital health ecosystems. And finally, targeted deployment in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. We are supported by MEDI, EMEDO, and JETRO, and MEJ for global expansion. So we are trying to by using BitA, democratize microbiological expertise. So our AI should not replace specialists, but it should extend their capabilities and push beyond their limits. That is our vision. Thank you very much for listening today.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Can you explain a little bit more about deployment record in Japan or some other countries?
Okay, yes, a very good question. We got approval from the Japan PMDA around a year ago, and we already deployed more than 25 hospitals in Japan, and we are working with top-tier hospitals in Indonesia and Vietnam to test and validate our AI. So next target should be in India.
So has this been implemented in Japan, and what is the impact of using this, and what is the current plan for India in terms of Has it been tested out here? I know you're looking for partners.
Yes, actually we're trying to find a good partner how to roll out, how to localize these products. And one of the targets will be some manufacturers or AI developer or government stakeholders. So, but still, we are now under the investigation phase. So
And in Japan,
Thank you for your presentation, team. Now, before we go ahead with the next set of presentations, I'd like to inform the participants, the jury members, and the wonderful audience that we have reached the half mark. Now, we are through with 10 presentations. We have 10 remaining. We'll be taking a short 5-minute break, and then we will be proceeding with the next set of presentations. Thank you for your patience.
Hello. Hey. Hello. I hope I'm audible now. Good afternoon. So every day, millions of farmers produce high quality fresh produce. But when they bring their produce to the market, it gets judged based on it gets judged in seconds. And that is when the whole season's income get decided, not based on quality, but based on the perception. This is why farmers are underpaid. This is why 30 to 40% of fresh produce get wasted. And this is why fresh produce markets are opaque. At Intello Labs, we asked a simple question: why quality is judged, not measured? The core problem was simple. When the quality is not standardized, this means no fair price, no trust, no efficiency. The core insight was, once you digitize the quality, you will be able to digitize the entire market. So we built an AI-powered digital infrastructure scanning each and every fruit using our technology, measuring defect, color, size, weight, without any human biases and without any negotiation tactics. It is just pure data. And that is what brings agriculture industry what they have never had: standardization, transparency, and trust. Now, quality only will not increase the farmer's income. So we have built and linked quality with price. Build a digital market infrastructure where buyers can remotely bid on AI certified produce, and the results were instant. Farmers get 8 to 20% of income uplift, buyers get predictable quality, consumers get consistency, and government can get real-time trade intelligence. This is when quality becomes data, data becomes trust, and trust becomes a market. Now, this is not an experiment. We have already sorted 70,000 metric ton of fresh produce across multiple states, pan-India, and we are also exporting machineries worldwide to different countries like Brazil, South America, Chile, Spain, and many more. Now, when AI getting into the agriculture, it needs to be supported by trust. So we have digitized each and every lot into a verifiable digital report card, including all the defect percentages, all color and size distributions, and their lot ratings. This is where farmers don't just get the price, but they get knowledge how to improve their produce season by season. Our technology is proprietary, supported by 5 granted patents, auditable, and built over responsible AI benchmarks, supported by Google Launchpad, NASSCOM AI for Good, and NVIDIA Inception programs, and many more. Our vision is to transform agriculture industry where farmers get better prices based on their quality. The fresh produce ecosystem should be transparent and efficient, and the fresh food not get wasted. This is where I end my presentation. Thank you. Over to you guys. Yeah. Hello.
There we go. I wanted to ask about the trust. Thank you for the presentation. You talk about the trust building at different parts of the funnel. Can you
Yes.
talk about how you are doing that across the different stakeholders?
Perfect. Good question. So trust is one factor when you are not able to see the quality, or when you are not able to connect the dot. That's where the trust get impacted. When you are digitizing the quality, each and every decision moving forward is connected with the digital information linked to the quality, and that's where transparency and trust bring into the picture. Yeah. Any other question?
What will be the revenue model like?
Sorry? Revenue model? Yeah. So, so we have on the AI digital infrastructure, quality infrastructure, we provide machines on rent as well as we actually sell them. And on the digital market infrastructure, we work on the partnership model where we get a percentage based on sales.
So will you be working with FPOs, or where are you deploying
So
this?
we work with aggregators and FPOs and operators who run the private mandis, who are enabling the farmers to actually aggregate the produce. Yeah, because the farm sizes are very small, so it will start from FPOs, and then it can be used by mandis, private marketplaces, auction houses, and also the operators who are actually involved in higher trades, the bigger quantity trades.
How's the current traction look like?
Our current traction, like for example, if I talk about pomegranate, we are present in 90% of the private mandis across various states like Jivana, Gujarat, Rajasthan and Maharashtra. And for apple, we are working with already Adani, and plus a lot of warehouses. We have already done every year. We are increasing our quality processed by 100%. So, so we have already sorted rated around 70,000 metric ton. So more than 50 odd customers, which are aggregating the fresh produce setup really highly.
How you are placing yourself as compared to slightly better placed players like Dehat and all?
So they are just a marketplace where the quality is still subjective. It is not linked with the price they are offering. So they can be, and it's human dependent, right? When a human is seeing the quality, then only they are actually providing the price. It is not, the whole lot is not objectively decided on the grade, which quality distribution or which defect distribution is there, how it is looking and how it is not looking. Everything is based on the perception of how much you can see the produce. And the produce size is really large, like 1 or 2 tons you cannot even imagine to look each and every part of the produce. So still it is dependent on human perception. So that is the marketplace model where they actually buy the produce and sell it. What we are enabling the aggregators is that we will convert the quality, convert the overall lot into a digital lot which can be traded from anywhere in the world.
So you mean to say those guys can be your potential customers per se?
Sorry,
I'm saying you mean to say those institutions or those guys can be your potential customers to enable them, you know, in terms of better health check or quality check of these produce?
Yes, yes. So they do respect the quality, but if the tech is not available, if you are not converting the quality properly, then it is just a perception. That is the only difference.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We now move to Madhu AI, an AI solution for diabetic retinopathy screening. We request the team to kindly come on the stage now.
This is the clicker.
Next slide.
Next slide, ये back है.
Thank you. Can we have the next? Yeah, the slides are not moving.
No.
Sorry. Okay. A very good afternoon to all of you. I am Dr. Rohan Chawla. I am a retina surgeon at AIIMS Delhi, and I would be presenting to you on Madhu Netra AI. This is our AI solution for screening for diabetic retinopathy. Now, this solution is totally in sync with the theme of the conference, welfare for all and happiness for all. So what is diabetic retinopathy? So it is a disease which affects the diabetic patients. It affects the vessels of the back of the eye, which is in the retina, and it can lead to blindness. It progresses from a mild stage to a severe stage over a certain time, and that gives us the opportunity to screen for the disease in time, catch the patient in time, so that, number one, blindness can be prevented, and number two, the patient can avoid expensive treatment later on if at all the patients are to develop this disease. Now, the burden of the disease is very high. India is the diabetic capital of the world, and at any point of time, we have more than 101 million diabetics in the country, of whom 4 million would have sight-threatening diabetic retinopathy. So why do we need AI for it? Like I said, it is a silent threat. In the initial stages, the patients may not have any symptoms, but that is when we want to catch them. We have a massive care gap. We do not have so many retina specialists, let alone ophthalmologists, to screen for so many people. And here is where AI can help us analyze just the retinal images and come to a diagnosis. So this is a simple overview of our solution. The camera takes images of the patient's retina, and we identify whether the patient has diabetic retinopathy or not, and classify it into its stages, and triage and referral of the patient can be decided accordingly. So there are various handheld fundus cameras available in the market today. Our device is camera agnostic, and we utilize the advanced AI features to analyze, detect, and diagnose the stage of retinopathy. We are also now working on an offline model for the same. For initial development, we used about 80,000 images from the free open source. Then we used retrospective images from AIIMS dataset to validate it. This was the retrospective analysis on which we based, using efficient net, this AI model. Then we also have done a prospective study from AIIMS patients and community vision centers of our center between the last 2 years, where annotations were done by retina specialists wherever there was a dispute between two people who were analyzing the same image. It went to a third adjudicator, and thus this shows how good our data set is. And following this, for a binary classification of whether diabetic retinopathy is present or not, we have got a very good accuracy of above 97%. And even for the various stages of retinopathy, we have a good CAPA score of about 0.9. It requires minimal infrastructure. Just one camera investment is definitely required. We can take the image. It has to be transferred onto the app, and within few seconds, you have an analysis using AI. This is the same workflow. So again, to show you, we have also developed a front end for it. The patient's data needs to be, first of all, we take a consent from the patient. Then the patient's data, basic data is entered, and simple images are uploaded onto the system, and it provides you with an analysis of how much severe the diabetic retinopathy is. We have also published it on PubMed Index journals. This is our publication, Artificial Intelligence for Detecting Diabetic Retinopathy. We have presented it on various fora. Economic Times has covered it. Indian Express has covered it. Recently, BBC has also covered it. And we also were fortunate to have the French delegation see it at AIIMS. We have implemented it across 41 health centers with support from various organizations. Vadvani AI is supporting us. Ministry of Health is supporting us. And we have already screened more than 10,000 patients. And our database is increasing day by day. So our business model is Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We now invite Helios 2.0 by Tinkerpell Labs to present their solution.
Check.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dilip Ramesh. I'm one of the co-founders of Thinkerbell Labs. I have my colleague Sanskriti here, one of my co-founders as well. Okay. So we are a decade-old assistive tech company from Bengaluru, India. We have a flagship product, Annie, which is a Braille literacy device for the visually impaired. It teaches you how to read, write, and type in Braille, the essential skills for Braille literacy. So with Annie, we've been working with over 300 schools in India. And we also have about 50-odd resource centers in inclusive education that we've been working with. But today we want to talk about Helios 2.0, which is our accessibility solution for inclusive education. Sorry, I don't have a clicker, just a minute. Can we go to the next slide if you can change it? Perfect. I think there seems to be a different deck here than what I had in mind, so I'll have to improvise a little. Okay, so what we are building right now is to do with inclusive education. I think you'll all agree if I say that within education, all of the content that exists right now, be it what the teacher creates on a daily basis, or your textbooks or any kind of reference material and guides, are all built for your average visual first learner across the globe, not just in India. And what happens with that is all of the children who have special education needs, the children with visual impairments, with hearing disability, it could be textbook writers, anybody who's creating any sort of educational content on one side. And on the other side, you have your assistive technology devices like your braille displays, your screen magnifiers, your audio players. It could also be a simplification for those on the spectrum in terms of chunking the data or your material into smaller, easier to digest pieces, or converting it into animations, converting it into any sort of simplification that makes it easier for those on the spectrum. And what is in between is a black box, so the content creators don't really have to worry about what exactly they need to do in order to adapt the content. So in short, it is a content adaptation and a content transformation platform that makes the entire process of catering to those with special education needs seamless and democratizes it to some extent. So with Helios 2.0 acting as a middleware, what it will also allow in the future is possible plugins with systems like your Disability Aadhaar or UDID, where you currently do not have access to information on who exactly needs assistive tech and what kind of assistive tech do they have requirement for and in which area, which part of the world. So that can be plugged into the system seamlessly again, thereby in the future also informing public goods or digital infrastructure procurement information as well. It could also work very well by seamlessly connecting to existing LMS tools like your Google Classroom, your Microsoft Teams, to feed data back and forth again. So just to visualize a system, let's imagine a classroom, let's say grade 3, and there's a teacher who's dealing with, say, 15 students. So you might have a couple of children who are visually impaired. You might have a few who are on the spectrum, diagnosed or not, that aside. You also might have a bunch of students who are doing very well and want to progress at their own speed. But because the content is built for the average learner, there are some who are lagging behind and there are some who are being pulled back as well. So with this sort of personalization and content adaptation into various all of those kids who are sitting on the fence, or somewhere around the average, who can benefit much better by having content available to them in formats that they best respond to and they best are able to consume. So that is us, Thinkable Labs would love to open for questions.
So what is the current status of implementation of this?
So currently it's a work in progress. We're working with a few beta customers, but we have Helios 1.0, which is a cross-stakeholder sharing platform for assistive tech in live across 300 centers in the country. So our first step will be to deploy Helios 2.0 across our existing centers, and then build from there for district-wide, statewide, and hopefully nationwide NEP implementation.
I just want to add with our Annie product, what we've done so far is we have a content pack which teaches punctuation in Braille in various languages and Braille codes. So we've built the ability to completely personalize that from a theme perspective, because the entire content is gamified. So there's a particular theme that we have as default, but depending on the day, there could be children. We work with children as young as 4 years old. So there could be a child who's currently obsessed with animals or with cars or with a particular cartoon character or superhero. So we have on Helios 1.0, you can just key in any theme of choice, and it will completely personalize the gamified content into that particular theme. So if you make it cricket, for example, it will be about your favorite cricketer teaching you Braille punctuation. So with that, we are seeing a higher level of engagement and retention of content, and they're able to participate better in the classroom. So we're using learnings from these to expand and extend this to other disabilities as well, and that is what we're currently working on. We're working with a few inclusive schools on a pilot basis, building a teacher toolkit. So it's currently at a stage where they're trying it out internally, but not yet exposing it to students, but we see that happening very soon.
There are quite a few organizations which are developing assistive technologies, and one of them, so you have any partnerships? Because one which has done a lot of work is Xavier's Institute of Visually Challenged in Mumbai from Xavier's College. I don't know whether you have been in touch with them, but some of this is quite similar to what they are also doing.
That is true, sir. We want to work in partnership with existing organizations. I mean, right now also our approach is fairly open-ended from a go-to-market perspective, because we don't know what kind of revenue model would pan out. Is it parent-driven? Is it school-driven? Is it student-driven? Even the pricing models for using AI credits are still, I would say, in its infancy, especially in India. So I think a lot of those will be worked out along the way, but we are very much in touch with them.
I would just recommend that you also connect with them.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. Now we request One Global Medical Technology Limited, Helium Health, to make their presentation. We request you to kindly stick with the time limit, as we have to clear the venue at 4:30 sharp. So we request you to kindly stick to the time limit. Please come to the stage.
Hello, everyone. A few years ago, my father-in-law kept reporting different symptoms. He visited several doctors, kept reporting the same symptoms, and they referred him to several hospitals. It was until 2 years later that he was finally diagnosed with stage 2 cancer. As difficult as that experience was for us, thankfully it was stage 2 cancer and we're able to get him treated. As difficult as that experience was, and as for many people in the room who have had loved ones who have struggled with cancer and different diseases, what stayed with me is how repeated patterns are left without connecting the signals and left undiagnosed. And that is why I am so excited about what we're doing at Helium Health. At Helium Health, we've developed a solution called Care Copilot. Care Copilot is an AI-powered solution that is powered on African healthcare data. Misdiagnosis happens. One of the reasons for misdiagnosis is because of the healthcare burden. By 2030, the world is expected to experience 10 million shortage in healthcare workers. Healthcare workers are spending their time in documentation, missing signals, writing on papers in some cases, when they should be spending time listening to patients, understanding the patterns. And that is why we created Care Copilot. It is that AI assistant that has been created to augment clinical decision making. And I was running you through some of the key features of Care Copilot. Number one is that it has a speech recognition and transcription. It has a follow-up, and then it also helps with differential diagnosis. It also helps with clinical decision support. It helps to draft clinical plans. And we, in terms of building this, we're very particular in ensuring that we're not trying to replace healthcare workers, but we're trying to augment the services that healthcare workers provide so that they can do more and see more patients. And then it also provides patient summary. These are the benefits to healthcare systems. Our data advantage and the power of what we've built is that our model has been trained on the longest longitudinal data for Africa. We have collected data through our EMR from 1.7 million patients. We've analyzed over 7.9 million prescriptions, and our solution is being used by 400 facilities. And all of this data has really helped us to build a model, an AI system that is not generic, but based on the context of African diseases and African health system. This is a simple run-through of how it works. A patient comes into the facility, while the patient is speaking to the doctor, the AI is listening, and then it's able to recommend follow-up questions, able to recommend treatment plans, and then the clinician is able to review the treatment plan, edit when needed, and then offer treatment to the patient. We have built a very robust ethical framework. We're compliant, we're HIPAA compliant. We ensure that we get patient consent, and we have a very strong privacy and data governance. These are some of our investors, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We now open the floor for questions, and we request you to come to the podium to answer them.
Thank you for sharing your story and for your presentation. Can you tell us how you are working with the Ministry of Health as a part of this effort in Nigeria, and sort of what your next milestone, like the key milestones to date that you've achieved? And
thank you for the question. I missed the first part. You want us to know?
Just curious how you're working with the Health Ministry, the Ministry of Health.
What she's wanting to understand, I believe, is the milestones that you've achieved so far.
Okay, right. So before we built this, the AI model and the solution, we started with providing electronic medical records to facilities. And over 400 facilities across Africa currently use our electronic medical record. So one of the things that so those are the first network of people that we plan to adopt the solution for. So what we're doing now is that we're testing the accuracy of the transcription. And we're not using a generic model because like the way I sound different from every speaker. So we're testing the accuracy of the transcription and also the diagnosis. And so far, we've tested with over close to 100+ facilities, and it has the accuracy is at 80 to 90% in terms of the transcription and the diagnosis plan. So our next step is to roll this out, and one fundamental thing is when we initially designed the electronic medical record, yes, we knew that AI was going to come, but the nuances of the patient data and even patient interaction is different. So one of the things that we're spending time on is patient education, because this is new, this is low resource setting in Africa. People sometimes feel like, oh, why are you recording me? So right now we're spending a lot of time in getting patient consent to roll this out, and also in patient and provider education. So that's our next milestone.
So your solution is, does it give a prescription at the end of this interaction that the patient has? And is that prescription valid in the stores? And supposing it says that you have to take this medication or whatever, is that accepted?
Okay, that's a very great question. Yes, it recommends prescription, and then the doctor is still able to review and sort of change or recommend a different prescription. Now, why this is different from like regular AI or ChatGPT and all of those things is because, like I mentioned in the slide, the model that we've built was built on the largest longitudinal data of Africa health. So the drugs that is recommending are not generic drugs that you can find in low resource setting. They're drugs that they're prescriptions that are available within the context that we're providing the solution for. But like I mentioned, there's a human in the loop. So even when the AI recommends the drugs, it is still left to the doctor to decide whether or not to treat the patient with that drug. Thank you.
Okay, so the output of the interaction goes to a doctor who then certifies it?
Yes, and it's all documented. So, in some of the care, the facilities that you probably visit, what you see most times is doctors are spending time typing in the electronic medical record. They don't need to do that anymore. The AI helps them to transcribe what their interaction, recommends the treatment plan, and all those data is not lost. It's saved in the patient records as well.
And what has been the statistic of how many times the doctor has rejected that prescription and changed it?
I think right now it's about 40% of time.
40% of the time?
Yeah, 40% of time.
Yeah. And
because the model uses our own model, but we also plug into MedGamma, that's the Google medical model, and sometimes it recommends drugs that based on maybe like the interaction or maybe some allergies that may not have been captured in our electronic medical record or previous history, it has to recommend a different drug, so it's about 40%. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. Now we request the CropScan Smart Farming IoT Technology team to make their presentation. Here's the clicker. This to move to the next slide, this to the move.
Okay, thank you. So, good morning. Am I audible?
You're audible.
So, good morning. My name is Jacob. I am the CEO and founder CropScan Technologies. When I was growing up, I was always given the responsibility to go and spray pesticides and apply fertilizers in our farm. But one thing stood out very clear, that my parents didn't have a very good way to know the exact type of fertilizer and pesticides to apply. They were kind of using trial and error. And the reason this happened to them and to many other small-scale farmers is because for them to know the fertilizer and pesticides to apply, they either have to take crop samples to a lab. Collecting crop samples is in itself a scientific process. Take them to a lab, then get a technical report telling them the kind of fertilizer or pesticide they should apply. This is expensive, and not reachable to many small-scale farmers. And what many do is they resort to guesswork or trial and error, where they do a visual observation of their crops. They go and buy the kind of fertilizer or chemical they think their crops need. They come and apply them on their crops. They continue to observe their crops. If there is no change, they buy again more or a different one and apply. And that loop continues until their crops have a visual change for them. And when this happens, it does not only increase the cost of food production for them, but this food ends up in the consumers with very high levels of pesticides and fertilizer residues. You agree with me that this is becoming a global health crisis, and it is very often that you have opened your newspaper or your TV and seen such a headline, whether you're in the US, you are here in India, or in different continents in the global south, showcasing the global impact of the health crisis of consuming this food with high levels of pesticides and chemical residues. And this has been directly related to heart diseases, diabetes, hypertension, brain damage, infertility, and stunted growth in children, and many other long-term chronic diseases. And application of these fertilizers does not only affect the human body, but also the environment is paying a very high price through the emissions, soil degradation, and even fertilizer runoff. Research shows that over 35 million tons of nitrogen fertilizers are applied in excess and go to the water bodies. That is about 700 million 50 kg bags that go to the water bodies due to the excess application of fertilizers. So we came together as a team and developed the CropScan Smart IoT device. It's an AI device. It is handheld. It is solar powered. It is the size of your notebook. And it utilizes AI to do both pre-harvest and post-harvest testing. And we have a patent for the same. So to demonstrate, I bought these vegetables in a local supermarket. And I want to check the pesticide or fertilizer levels in the vegetables. I start with the green lettuce. Once I put it at the sensor, in 1 second, it gives me a caution and tells me the levels are quite high, but I should eat moderately. I go ahead to check the cabbage, do the same process, but for the cabbage, it gives me a red warning telling me there are very high levels of pesticide and fertilizer residues in that cabbage. But remember, this is the same cabbage that, as you can see in the photo, is being sold to the end users, the food consumers like me and you. But because we don't have a good way to check for the pesticide levels, we end up consuming very high risky produce because we can't be able to test. So we went ahead and asked ourselves, then how do we enable farmers produce healthy food? That's why CropScan also does the pre-harvest crop testing, where you just insert a leaf into the device. Within 1 second, it tells you the nutrients that your crop is missing and the fertilizer that you need to apply. And when you do this, as the food consumers, you end up getting highly nutritious food, and you get healthy food. Number two is that the small-scale farmers reduce their cost of production because they apply fertilizer and chemicals more precisely, but also they are able to get even much better prices. The environment also does not pay the price because the emissions are reduced and the nutrient runoff. And so far, we have worked and launched our product in Kenya, working with about over 8,000 farmers, 2 major supermarkets, reduced on emissions, helped farmers unlock over $1.8 million in credit, and over 4,000 farmers have been able to access export markets. Our market is big. We are targeting the small-scale farmers, food or healthy conscious consumers like me and you, food exporters, supermarkets and food chains, and even the food quality assurance professionals and regulators. On the basis of affordability, we beat our competitors, both at the farm level, who are soil testing and agronomists, and even the labs. We beat our competitors in most of the basic features. Our team is made up of myself, currently doing a Master's of AI, 10 years in tech industry. We have a CTO, a lead trainer, a COO, and a marketing lead. We are raising $250,000 for R&D, scaling, patenting, and also a non-financial ask of mentorship. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We request the jury members to restrict themselves to just one question, just so that we can ensure all the speakers and the presenters are covered. Is there no question at all? I believe you have blown their minds with your innovation. Thank you so much for your presentation. Now we can move to the next presenter. Kidora Innovations, they have a solution on learning disabilities. We request them to kindly come to the stage and make their presentation and kindly stick to the 5-minute time limit.
Hello. Can you start the... Hi everyone, my name is Shiv. I am co-founder at Kidora. At Kidora, we are working for early identification and intervention for developmental conditions like autism, ADHD, and etc. So talking about autism, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's one of the hidden disability where individuals have issues in communication, social interactions, and we also see unusual and repetitive behavior. In countries like India, the prevalence of autism is 1 in 100, whereas in developed countries like US, the prevalence is 1 in 36. That means we are still missing out cases due to lack of awareness and expertise. So now let me start with my personal story. He's my nephew. His name is Gunnu. We identified Gunnu with autism around 10 months back when he was 2.5 years of age. Average age of diagnosis in India is around 4.5 years. The reason why we need to identify someone at an early age because around 75 to 85% brain development take place before the age of 6, and that's the right age to identify someone because if the early we identify someone, the better effectiveness of interventions can be achieved. Now again, in case of Gunnu, we could have spotted him when he was just 18 months of age because symptoms of autism start surfacing around 18 months of age. But because of this social smile, which is not very common in autism, I overlook the symptoms. And so if like this can happen with someone like me who is working in the field since last 8 years, and I personally interacted with more than 1,000 kids with autism. Imagine a classroom scenario or a Anganwadi scenario where how difficult it would be for a preschool teacher or an untrained eye to identify that one such individual. So to overcome this problem, we at Kidora, we are using games and AI to identify children with autism and related conditions, and the age group we are targeting is 3 to 6 years of age. So there are core advantages through this approach is, first of all, children don't realize that they are going through some sort of an assessment. For them, this is kind of like fun activity. At the same time, we are able to collect their true essence of behavior. Second, these games are not dependent on any language. So if child is from, let's say, Hindi background, Marathi background, Tamil background, or even Arabic background, we can simply screen them. And third, we don't require an expert on field to conduct this screening. So just to summarize, a gameplay of a child looks very simple through our naked eye, but with our deep tech algorithms, we are able to see their hidden game patterns. Whenever a child interacts with the screen, we collect more than 50 plus parameters, such as their swiping speed, acceleration, how much time they are taking between 2 swipes, and then we feed the same data to our model. And in clinical setup, we are able to achieve 83% sensitivity in identifying such cases. If we compare this with gold standard screening questionnaires such as MChat, our tool shows much better sensitivity and specificity over the time. So we are also part of India AI India AI Innovation Challenge. So as part of India AI Innovation Challenge, we deployed this tool across 46 preschools, Anganwadis, autism centers. We screen around 700 plus children there. We were able to identify 38 cases with autism and related conditions. And during these pilots, we achieved around 92% overall accuracy to do the screening. And as per American Academy of Pediatrics, any tool that cross 70% can be used for screening measures. So now question arises, okay, we screen, but what next? So that's where we have another platform. It's a therapy delivery platform where on one side, therapist can manage entire child, let's say their documentation, their progress. And on the other side, parent can also receive home plan, like what sort of activity they need to perform with the child. And The way we are deploying this right now is like we will do the initial screening, and children those, let's say, identified through our screening initiative, we further channelize them to our therapy intervention plan. Overall market size, in India alone, we have around 75 million plus children in the age of 3 to 6. Every year, we see around 200,000 new cases of autism. And if you talk about other neurodevelopmental disability, we can simply multiply these numbers by 6. Currently, we received a work order from India AI itself to screen 40,000 children in Anganwadis. We are also working closely with the government. We signed agreement to screen 150,000 children, and similar discussions are happening with other governments as well. These are recommendation letters, so apart from India, we are also looking at the market of Southeast Asia and MENA region. So yes, we are a team of 11 people as of now. We have domain advisory from various institutes. So worldwide around 140 million children born every year. We believe that our technology has the ability to reach out and provide intervention at the right time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, team. We now move on to Equitwin by Infuse Health. From now on, going forward for the next 4 presentations, we will just have the presentations and then we'll do the Q&A round in a separate room.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Bimi, and I am one of the founders at Infuse Health. This is my dad, and a few years ago, he was diagnosed with a disease known as adenomyeloneuropathy. And it's a rare genetic condition that affects men mostly in their later stages of life, and we didn't know that he had this disease. At the time of his diagnosis, I'm a nurse by background, and I worked as a research assistant at Stanford, where I worked primarily with researchers that ran clinical trials for different diseases. And so I knew that there was a clinical trial for this disease happening in the lab that I worked in. But my dad was 3,000 miles away in Cameroon. This is the reality for about 1.4 billion people or more that don't live in the US or in Europe and are not privy to the over 600,000 clinical trials that happen primarily in these regions, with less than 3% of that number happening outside of the US and Europe. And so what we did with my dad was to enroll him into that clinical trial that was happening 3,000 miles away. The researchers at Stanford were able to send over equipment like wearables and trackers where we were able to track his activity levels and just make sure that he was able to still participate in that study without being there physically. They were also able to collect digital data from his EHR records, and because he had a genetic condition, they were able to get his genomic DNA sequenced as well. As a result of that, my dad was enrolled into a clinical trial that was happening 3,000 miles away from home as a patient, and consequently was in line to take one of the groundbreaking drugs that were being developed for this condition. And that's how Infuse Health was born. We are building digital patient twins that can help patients anywhere in the world take part in clinical trials and helps research teams simulate how patients, irrespective of where they are, will react to drugs, vaccines, or medical devices that are being invented. Using our platform, researchers are able to optimize their clinical trial protocols and make sure that they can fine-tune patient visits to make sure that the research is not a burden on these patients. They can also monitor for any sort of quality control issues so that irrespective of where a patient is located, we know that the standard of care and the standard of adherence to the clinical trial protocol is being adhered to. And also, it helps pharmaceutical companies see that there are patients all over the world that have a lot of these diseases that they develop drugs for, and is able to build more inclusive, diverse clinical trials for every type of patient. And so we've been able to have our digital twins take part in clinical trials that have been run by pharmaceutical companies, academic institutions, healthcare companies, and even a few companies here in India. So far, we've run about 23 studies so far across 5 indications, and we are on track to generate about $1.3 million in ARR as of this February. And so that's Infuse Health, whereby we want to make sure that healthcare, irrespective of where you are able to take part in a drug, vaccine, or medical device clinical trial that will impact you as much as the next patient. That'll be all. Thank you.
Okay. No? Okay. Thank you for your presentation, team. Now we request Square Tech IT Solutions Private Limited to make their solution presentation.
Headset one on.
So please note you have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to talk to all of you this evening about one of the most important things that happens when organizations go digitized. Cybersecurity is something that is so prevalent and so pervasive that that is the #1 solution that everybody should seek as they digitize. This is SecureTech. My name is Udayanathan, and we are here to talk about how AI protects your environment, detects, responds, and mitigates those challenges. The solution that we want to talk about is C10. But before I go there, I just want to quickly talk about Pankaj Desai and Anand's assignment to simplify security as they look at India and global markets. Awards and recognitions that have come in from analysts, has come in from the Indian government, has come in from various bodies, each of them recognizing the power of AI, whether it's Gen AI, whether it's LLM, SLM, agentic AI, all of them delivering the assignment of detecting and protecting the Indian environment. Let me just go quickly on to the solutions that actually matter. It's not just security that is seen as defense in breadth, but also defense in depth. And these are cohesive solutions that can coexist with the customer's existing solutions. So there is no rip and replace. This can complement what they don't have, and the important thing is to consolidate. So defense in breadth is the solution that I'm going to be talking about. This came out with Gartner 2 years ago, where they actually talked about a solution that can protect and be proactive and protect the customers by at least 60 to 80%. All of which actually helps the customer having effortless security, empowering protection, and unwavering commitment. Now, these are the weak links that are there with the customers. #1, they have various investments that they have made in cybersecurity. Whether it's endpoint solutions, whether it is SIM solutions in the SOC, or whether they have vulnerability and penetration testing. Each of these solutions does only that point solution. And each of them have some consoles and teams delivering that service. The problem is with this heterogeneity. Whenever there is an attack that happens, there isn't a single console that will tell you where the problem is. And the second thing is there is unstructured data that is there, which cannot be actually monitored from cybersecurity. Whenever a penetration happens, Ponemon report suggested that it takes 181 days to detect an attack, right down to the root cause analysis. 181 days where a penetrator can have a field day. And then after that, it takes 60 days to mitigate it. And year on year, the number of attacks are just going up because of the nation-state attackers, or because of the agentic AI or the AGI that we are going to be seeing in the next few years. All of this is going to make it this even more complex because the attacker is using next generation AI. Now, so what do we do to help this customer? That's where CTEM comes. Now, every asset, every moment, and no surprises is what we are trying to highlight, because if there is some asset, some IP that is not being monitored 24/7, an attack can happen through that blind spot. So every asset has to be seen. Now, these assets are either external facing, or they are internal facing, or they are in cloud, whether they're in private cloud, they're in public cloud, they're in hybrid cloud. This could be application security. This could be human who's doing something which can cause or trigger an attack. Then there is OT and various other solutions. So whether the asset is in any of these places, what is very important is you need to have a complete visibility of these assets. You need to have asset discovery, you need to have asset mapping, and then you need to have attack being seen. And what you see at the bottom are those 5 areas that are very, very important. Gap analysis. Now, after I have visibility, I should be able to understand where the gaps are and identify the risks that are associated with this gap. Where is the vulnerability? I need to discover that. Where is the misconfiguration? Because these are exactly what the attacker would look for. The attacker is actually looking for gaps that they can use to penetrate. Now, if this gap analysis is seen by the customer before the attacker sees it, you would be in a position to protect it. This is where the agentic AI and Gen AI would come in. And what it does is, it does asset risk prioritization. No two assets are the same. There are critical assets, there are high, medium, and low. You have to treat them very differently. It's not first in, first out. And then you also have to see what can I do to remediate the attack. There should be standard operating procedures and playbooks that can be automated. And AI and AGI can be doing that job. What is the minimal that is required in terms of activities? But there is a manual human in the loop to put guardrails. After which, now what you saw on the previous slide are those attacks that came in. See, if you go down, you can see using agentic and Gen AI to prioritize your risk. These 3 came up as the problem area for that enterprise, which is customized. So when you go from there, you need to start remediating. When you start remediating, you saw all of them are going green. So we give you a single console from where you can actually see all of this across the body of your assets. So you can have, what you're seeing on the screen is a dashboard view which tells you where are you against an organizational risk. So there are AI technologies and solutions from each of these areas, whether it's AI, whether it's agentic AI, and there are various other LLMs and SLMs that we are doing. There's a supervised learnings, unsupervised learnings, and contextual creation, all of which helps us in doing all these activities that I talked about. There are 23 AI models that we are using to deliver these solutions. So the strategic value is the quantifiable path, the transformation on ensuring that the security posture is always green, eliminating the blind spots, reducing the operational burnout and fatigue, and then, of course, data-driven activities. ROI is a pet subject of all the CFOs, and whenever the customer comes and says, I already have the solution, what is the value add that CTEM can build on top of that is what is being shown in each of these, because the bottom circles are what the customer has already invested in, and the top circles is what is the value add that is being bought on. We can connect to any device, anytime, anywhere. I would like to leave you with this video, which would play that solution. Can you play the video, please?
Percept CTEM transforms how organizations manage cyber risk. Let's break it down.
1 minute.
Gain 100% attack surface visibility across all organizational assets, external, internal, human, cloud, applications, or SaaS, and OT, IoT on a single console. Spot vulnerabilities, misconfiguration, identity risks, and compliance gaps continuously. Prioritize threats, validate fixes, and plan responses that fit your environment. Remediate fast Automate actions. Stay ahead with real-time insights. Percept CTEM complements and coexists with third-party tools, and SecureTech's Percept Security Suite, serving as an intelligent overlay that contextualizes data from existing tools. Percept CTEM is like giving you the adversary's X-ray vision, so you see what they see and stop them before they strike.
Thank you very much. So let's work together, you and I, using this wonderful agentic AI, LLM, SLM, and everything that we have together to simplify security, because we are discovering these new attacks with you together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation, sir. Now we request the Torchit Electronics Private Limited team to make their presentation.
Which button? Good evening. First of all, my name is Dinesh Bahal and I'm heading partnerships. First of all, I'm thankful to the Government of India, MITI, selectors and respected juries for giving us this opportunity. Torchit works for empowerment and inclusion of persons with disabilities through innovative and affordable assistive solutions. Started with one of the product, started with smart cane and assistive devices solution. And today we have more than 600 products. 1 billion persons with disabilities need 2 billion assistive solutions. This is the number from WHO. And this 80% from developing countries, 92% are from lower middle income groups, 73% are dependent or are unemployed. In India alone, 14 plus million people are unemployed. We can say there is independence, still 1 billion plus PW struggle for daily independence due to visual, mobility or communication challenges, lack of inclusion without affordable assistive solutions. They are excluded from schools, universities and fair employment. Unemployability, limited access to education and training leaves many unable to find jobs, remaining a burden on family and society. A major liability, nearly 90% come from low-income households, making disability a major financial liability for families. We have developed this Jyoti AI Smart Glass, which has all these features of object and scheme description, smart read with multilingual OCR, Jyoti features an intelligent optical character recognition system that supports multiple languages, currency color labels recognition, literacy, independent and ergonomic. Jury, I have given you one Braille book. You can see how bulky it is, and this is only the one volume. The textbook which we carry, and if this textbook is converted, it is of already 8 volumes. So we are aiming education of visually impaired, because after 10th and 12th, there are no Braille books available. It is not in India, but all over the world. Jyoti AI Reader, Smart Read with multilingual OCR, AI Reader, Intelligent OCR with AI teaching, summaries, make questions and answers, save audio and many other. Connectivity compatible with smartphones and computer. Offline capability, works with or without an internet connection. Lightweight LED light and ergonomic. This is our achievement. 85 plus PWs pursuing doctoral degrees, 590 plus advancing to postgraduate education, 40-30 plus students writing exams independently, 4,500 plus professionals thriving at work, 40,000 lives empowered through this Jyoti AI. We are transforming schools in India, blind schools, 30 plus universities, 50 plus corporates and banks, 120 spatial and inclusive schools, 400 plus government libraries, where we have made resource rooms. We align with 4 United Nations SDGs, good health, quality education, economic growth, and reduce inequalities. Plus, we are working on 4 A's, that is awareness, accessibility, affordability, and availability. These are our industry partners and recommendation letters. These are our accolades. Hani Bhagchandani, our founder, right now he is in Vienna. He has been invited by United Nations in Zero Project Conference. So on behalf of him, I am presenting. These are our team members. These are our patents file. We have 5 patents filed. Have a colorful day. One thing more, you can see on my back, this is our slogan, make more possible. Thank you.
The last presenter for today is InfeliHealth, Health Tech Private Limited. Over to you, ma'am. Please make your presentation.
Hi, everyone. This is an intimidating stage. I might as well use my own app, an Hilo AI Mental Health Companion. So when I was 12, I froze on national television. I was one of the 320 child geniuses to take part in India's Child Genius. Yet, after the event, I was left with social anxiety and stuttering. And in my journey, in my mental health journey, I discovered there are 4 main gaps in mental health ecosystem in India and globally. First is stigma, second is affordability, then there's accessibility issues, there are long wait times, and third, lastly, therapy is fragmented. There's so many apps out there that are trying to cater to therapy, meditation tracks, journaling, and so on and so forth. So our solution was that an AI mental health companion could effectively address all of these gaps. Your AI mental health companion doesn't get angry, it's stigma-free, doesn't judge you, right? It's low cost, and its support on demand provides 24/7 access with no wait times. And you could pretty much couple it with therapy sessions, meditation tracks, whatever you like. Now, we also recognize that people are already using ChatGPT for their mental health in 2025. Harvard Business Review says therapy and companionship is the first use case to come out of that year. And we also see several very sophisticated solutions coming in. But there are several concerns. There are concerns around AI having extremely high hallucination rates. There are concerns around AI being psychophantic. And that's what we want to solve with Hilo. Hilo is built on responsible AI and safe principles where we actually have a triaging mechanism. We actually have a human-in-the-loop system, and we match people to therapists. We've also fine-tuned our own AI models on exclusively therapy data sets. And for high-risk cases like psychosis, suicidal ideation, we don't think AI should be answering those queries. We think that the humans should be a part of that entire loop. Our entire system is based on several layers. The lowest layer is a LLM. We have several systemic controls. And then there are therapists that sit on top of it that vet each and every answer. And there's continuous monitoring and testing in our entire system. We've built an entire ecosystem. We don't think that we can just solve it through an AI chatbot. You need meditation tracks. You need access to therapists in real time. You need journaling and several other tools for mental health that we provide. Now, our solution has been clinically validated at AIIMS Delhi, and we've rolled it out. About 1 million people use it now, and we've had significant scale and impact. It's available in 93 languages, all scheduled 22 languages are covered, and we are HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant, as well as DPDP compliant. Now, we've of course had users from all over the world, 165 countries to be exact, and We are growing rapidly, 30% month on month. We've had more than 2 million conversations on our platform. In terms of business model, it is B2C and B2B both. We also are partnering with insurance tech companies, pharmaceutical companies, and healthcare companies. And in terms of a competitor analysis, we did a blind witness study with 214 participants, where Hilo effectively outperformed its competitors on several parameters such as human tone, safety, etc. We also have persistent long-term memory implemented, which is persona-based. So AI actually keeps a track of more than 1,000 sessions that you have on our platform and is able to bring it up in a relevant place. We've had partnerships across with, and we are part of several tech accelerators, almost all the tech accelerators, NVIDIA, Inception, Google for Startups. We were Forbes Top 100 Startups, UNDP, as well as WEB, World Economic Forum, Uplink Startup. We got a shout out from Jensen Huang at the NVIDIA Summit, and Prime Minister Modi actually mentioned us in his podcast. And we also, we've signed MOUs with Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment in India as well. We recently represented, we were part of the India delegation in World Economic Forum Davos, where I spoke on intersection of AI, health, and safety. And this is me, Srishti, founder and CEO from IIT Bombay. That's Utkarsh, my co-founder. And we have a team of licensed clinical psychologists as well as psychiatrists from AIIMS Delhi and IIT Bombay building this product. And in terms of our impact, we intend to focus on the grassroots. I know that not all of it will be just AI. We need to focus on workshops. We need to focus on capacity building, and that's what we are heavily invested in. We've conducted several large, we are a huge advocate for mental health, and our impact, we hope to reach 100 million people by 2030. So if you want to support the future of mental health, please do join us. Thank you so much.
That brings us to the end of the showcase presentations. On behalf of the organizing team, congratulations to all the 20 teams. Now we request the EMC to kindly set up the stage for the next panel discussion. This is a high-level panel discussion on AI and financial services, curated by the Reserve Bank of India. We request all the participants in the room to kindly remain seated in case they're interested in knowing
So a very good evening, everyone, and on behalf of Reserve Bank of India FinTech Department, I welcome you all to this panel discussion. I know it's pretty late in the evening, but I'm sure you would find it very interesting. And what I would say that, a lot of sessions are getting held out here today, but as you would understand, the financial services is one area where artificial intelligence is having one of the very early adoption. And it is also the adoption is increasing as we speak. A primary reason being this is one area where a lot of decision making happens through the processing of data and information. So it is one area which is ripe for taking advantages, innovating on top of that. And looking at this space, Reserve Bank of India had constituted a committee to look at the various dimensions, innovation potential, as well as risk mitigation dimensions. A committee was constituted, and the committee has submitted its report, which is placed on our website in August 2025. And as part of the recommendations, 7 broad sutras or principles which were articulated. And I'm also happy to report that the Government of India has adopted those very 7 sutras or principles as the governance framework principles for the country. We would discuss a lot, like from early stage of experimentation, now we are moving towards making an impact on the ground. And this is an appropriate time to take stock, reflect where we stand today and how do we proceed from here forward. And to guide me in this journey, I have a wonderful panel with me today. And please join me in welcoming our wonderful panel out here. First, let me introduce Dr. Ravindran, who is at the helm of technology frontiers. He is heading the Wadhwani School of Data Sciences at IIT Madras. And he was also part of our committee member in the Free AI committee. And he has contributed greatly to this dimension. We look forward to his interventions. Thank you, sir, for accepting. Next to him, on his left, is Dr. Devdutt Chand. He is the MD and CEO of one of the largest public sector banks in India, and it is known as the Global Bank of India, having the highest number of foreign branches across the globe. And it is also known as a digitally savvy bank, as they have taken a lot of initiatives in this area. We look forward to get a practitioner's perspective from his insights. Next to him is we are fortunate to have Ms. Tara Lyons, and she is representing JP Morgan Chase, heads the global AI policy, and she will definitely bring the global perspective and the experiences from various countries that a firm like JP Morgan operates across the globe. And she is heading the policy, and we would expect certainly the cross-country dimensions from her. And next to her, Dr. Debrag Banerjee. He is the chief data scientist at L&T Finance, but he is also a PhD in AI from Stanford and has been working in this dimension for a pretty long year and has both the academic grounding as well as the practitioner's perspective to bring this to today's discussion. So let me, begin by, taking the first. Let's look at where we stand in terms of use cases. So let me first turn to Dr. Chand, who is heading the Bank of Baroda, and they are a full-service bank across, all kind of lending products, deposit products. Also has the responsibility on fraud, risk management, and full-service bank. So what are the early insights they see from application of AI in financial services? Where do they see the maximum benefits arising out of? And also in their journey so far, have they witnessed any constraints or anything that is holding them back? And what would they like the policy unlocks or as a country to unlock so that we can take it to the next level? Your thoughts, sir?
Sorry, I just have one request. In an effort to make it easy for the audience to see us, they made it almost impossible for us to see the audience. Can somebody dim the lights, please?
Can I go ahead? Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Pati, and thanks to Reserve Bank of India for inviting me here. See, as a bank, clearly we have a huge scale. And when I say that we have huge scale, we have huge database. And we being both present in India big time and also overseas, many of the practices that we adopt is best practices. So in the context of that, the usage of AI in the bank has been quite significant. And when I say that the usage is significant, anything you want the AI usage to be there, you need to have a data lake. So we thought of having a big data lake. The data lake is of the size of some petabytes, which is there with us. So on the huge data, we have been using AI and ML since long. It is almost 6-7 years that we are using AI and ML. As on today, if I talk about, we have 50 use cases within the bank where the usage of AI, ML has been there across different verticals. And these verticals are multiple, like we use AI in underwriting, we use AI in fraud risk management, we use AI most recently on the customer service also. So when I talk about the usage of AI by the bank on the underwriting system, the biggest advantage of usage of AI in the underwriting is the inclusivity that it brings. The AI usage has been on the underwriting has been significant across multiple underwriting system, whether it is the loan processing system. But the biggest advantage here when we, in the Indian context, when we talk about AI in the underwriting process is the inclusion. Why it is so? Because as you know, the banking, when we underwrite a loan or give a sanction to a loan, what is important for a customer is the customer credit worthiness. There are many businesses in India as on today, they may not have a credit history. Because of the AI tool, because AI is able to collate multiple data points for that customer, and the customer may not be having a credit history, the AI is able to help us in terms of underwriting these loans. So the underwriting has been a great use case for us in terms of using multiple, whether it is a large corporate transaction or a MSME transaction or a agri transaction. But I think for an Indian context, what is greatest advantage for the usage of AI is the inclusion it brings on the underwriting. The second big usage of the AI in our bank is with regard to the fraud risk management or there are multiple such early warning system where many of this prevention or the AI usage has been on a real-time basis, we can detect things. You might be knowing there is a RBIH, which is a RBI Innovation Hub, and they have a application called Mule Hunter. So we are one of the bank to implement Mule Hunter. Mule Hunter is doing something, detecting the fraud on a real-time basis on the top of the entire transaction system. So that's something very, very significant in terms of the usage of AI there. Of late, last 1 year, 1.5 years, we started implementing the usage of AI in the customer relationship. I mean, when we use AI on customer relationship, there are challenges over there. And initially, when the usage of AI on the customer relationship, we have the chatbot, which is again AI powered. And around 8 months back, we came out with a robotic virtual relationship manager. It's a robotic humanoid which can interact with the customer on a real-time basis and can do 17 financial and non-financial transactions. This is a unique experiment in Indian market, wherein a usage of AI, this is powered by the Gen AI. Maybe you are traveling across Delhi, then you can find billboards also talking about this model called Aditi, which can interact with customers. So we are trying to have a different customer experience in terms of usage of AI. So we as a bank, as on today, we have 50 use cases in multiple verticals, starting from underwriting, fraud risk management. At the same time, we have 8 what you can say enterprise level Gen AI powered use cases, which are again including the Aditi I'm talking about. And the third and most important in terms of driving AI is that we as a bank, how do I make it the AI usage more responsive? So later on I'll come out with all those themes. But as far as Bank of Baroda is concerned, AI usage has been significant and it gives immense productivity or the efficiency as far as the bank is concerned.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chand, for those insights. And I am sure this is just the beginning and there is more to come. Now let me turn to the non-banking financial company counterpart, Dr. Debrag Banerjee. Uh, NBFCs have traditionally been more nimble-footed, more, sort of agile in terms of embracing technology, and you have always been talking about the return on data investment, and that is something we find it very interesting. We have had glimpse of insights as to how L&T Finance is using AI into credit underwriting models, taking a video of the household and deriving models out of that, judging creditworthiness of the borrowers. So what are the typical alternate data sources that you are channelizing? The behavioral signals, transaction patterns, device metadata, geospatial indicators, and all this, how you are embedding into your credit underwriting models, and how they have been proving to be effective than the traditional approaches. And how would you see that going further in the days to come, and when agentic gets embedded into this decision-making process? And are there any challenges that you have encountered in the process? How have you mitigated them in your journey?
Yeah, so we have launched a flagship underwriting platform called Cyclops, which works by taking a 360-degree view of the customer through multiple different data sources, coming through many different APIs and scoring more than 15, 20, sometimes scores of machine learning models on something their scores and coming up with decisions most of the time within 3 seconds. Now, why? So first, it enables a better understanding of the context and not just a view of the individual when we try to make these decisions. Context can mean what kind of living circumstances they are in, what areas do they live in, can I understand that better from geospatial data around them, can I understand their life stages, can I understand their needs, why they are taking this loan, and ultimately lending is about the future. In future, is he going to be able to repay my loan or not? Now, when you look at India, about half of the Indian population is below 27 years of age. And if you look at the credit thickness of this population, if you used the traditional, yes, somebody took a loan and hence we can give them another loan model, you would not be able to justify most of the loans that this population can actually absorb, can actually utilize and actually grow with. For that, we need to look for alternative data that go beyond it. Now, as it so happens that because of the massive scale of mobile penetration, digitization, and, by the way, e-governance, we are able to get much better fingerprints, digital fingerprints on borrowers, be it from their expenditure behaviors that by and large are happening. A big part of that is happening through UPI and other kind of digital payment mechanisms. Whether we look at their expenditure and income patterns as evidence from their banking activities, which are again enabled by the account aggregator framework that the government has put together, and also way beyond, like how are they using their apps? I mean, today we roam around with these digital companions called smartphones, and they tell us a lot more about ourselves than traditional credit bureau reports used to, and so on and so forth. It keeps going. And even when you go into what we usually used to consider data poor areas like rural India, things like satellite data, things like GIS information, things that used to be unstructured, and today, with the help of LLMs and other mechanisms for taking that unstructured data and deriving signals out of it, we can make these models make decisions that bring all of this into context. And to the extent that when we launched Cyclops and improved it over 3 times within the span of 1.5 years, which is, by the way, a staggering rate of improvement, in deployment, we saw that our credit cost is coming down to almost 1/3 of what it used to be. And so that is what we look at and call our return on data investment. All of that data that we are acquiring, processing, modeling, and predicting on, that is a return that we get. And by the way, if you then translate it into what that does to the lives of the good customers who actually use their loan responsibly and return back, it adds to the overall improvement of the country.
Yeah, thank you, and good to learn that there are some early gains that you are able to see in terms of reduced credit cost. Let me turn to the technologists on the panel. Everyone is talking about agentic AI and things like that. And of course, as we say in the financial sector, when you are dealing with people's money, trust is very important. And it's a trust-based activity, and no matter how powerful the technology may be, it will never be adopted unless it enhances trust. So how in this framework, when agentic AI is getting slowly embedded into the financial spectrum, how do we continue, or what we need to do to continue, maintain, and enhance trust in the financial system? What kind of toolkits, approaches that we need to build in where agentic AI gets seamlessly blended in the financial services and trust is also ensured along the way?
Sure. Okay, can people hear me on this? Okay, great. Before I get there, so I just wanted to point out something else. So right now, in parallel with this session, the National AI Policy for Health is being announced. And that too, we have adopted the same 7 sutras that we started with the RBI reports. I think we are really shaping the national AI policy landscape with that report. So that's a good thing. So getting back to trust, right? So it gets doubly problematic when we talk about agents. So even when you talk about basic AI systems, right? So in fact, if we start off with the trust is the foundation as one of the mantras for how we build. I know the echo is really bad. The trust is the foundation. No, not just on this. When you're talking, I'm getting it. I don't think it's better. Okay, great. So so trust is the foundation, right? So there are 2 questions here. The first one is, how would you trust the AI model itself? So a lot of work that is being done in terms of evaluating these models, benchmarking these models, and so on and so forth. And one of the deliverables that we have been proposing as an outcome of this summit, right? So I also chair the Safe and Trusted AI Working Group, and so we have this will be announced in a couple of days. So we are setting up something called the Trusted AI Commons, which is essentially going to kind of gather a lot of tools, benchmarks, and use cases, or basically toolkits, right? Processes as to how would you build AI models that are trustworthy for the global south scenario. Right? It's not that if a model is fine in the US, it will always work the same way in India. So all of these things we know are a challenge, right? So the basic fundamental AI model itself has to be trusted, has to be tested for trustworthiness and so on and so forth. That's one part of it. The second question you asked was about agentic AI. Now that raises yet another concern, because now even if the AI is trusted, right? So how do I know that at that point the agent is acting legally on behalf of a human, right? So I think we need to start having more kind of a large, especially in the fintech space, we need to have more of a framework that is established in terms of some kind of a non-violable contract that a client is going to have to enter into to allow an agent to do banking on their behalf. So some kind of a commitment saying that, okay, the agent is going to do this service I've accepted that this is what it's going to do, and whatever consequences I'm going to accept, and maybe it's some kind of a digitally, completely digitally signed process or something like that. But we need to start building extra mechanisms, additional mechanisms for establishing trust in an agentic world. I don't think just going and fixing the AI is going to help build the trust in the agentic world. I think it's something that we have to really think about.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Ravindran. I think you brought us to another important dimension for today's discussion is how do we think about the liability framework for the customers, for the regulated entities, or for the model developers in this entire AI space. Who is liable for what, and how the customers need to be protected. What we have talked about in the report, because the customers need to be protected at all times, and it is generally the regulated entities that need to take the responsibility of how the service is rolled out. So in this context, let me turn to Tara, and given your global experience and that perspectives that you bring, how do you see the liability framework emerging across jurisdictions, and what should be based on the learning so far, what would be a good liability framework to aim at from a financial services sector, and especially in the context of agentic AI getting sort of embedded into the financial services, how do we see this space, and what are the challenges that you foresee in terms of agentic AI getting, and how do we bring the governance framework back to address some of these concerns? Over to you.
Sure. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much to the Reserve Bank of India for hosting us for this important conversation today. I think not least of which because, as you mentioned at the top of your remarks, banks have a long history of risk management practice applied in AI deployment settings. I think to your question about liability and accountability, this sort of is the defining question of the agentic AI era in many ways. And it's not a new set of issues. We had to navigate this in other sort of componentry in the AI supply chain, including with cloud services previously and other dimensions. But certainly there are open questions yet to be resolved, I think, given the current capabilities emerging. I think the way that we have started thinking about this at JP Morgan Chase is through what we are calling the shared accountability framework, which really, I think, describes a situation in which you see end users like banks and other model deployers being held responsible for their actions in deployment, but in the context of a much longer AI supply chain, which incorporates a lot of upstream vendors and suppliers and entities that support the delivery of that product or service. I think that the same rules, frankly, that we've applied to other tech policy conversations are certainly still relevant here, including focusing on governing outcomes using risk-based frameworks, technology-neutral lenses through which to govern AI. And I think certainly, there's strong alignment in India's approach to AI regulation, which has really been focused on empowering sector regulators in figuring out the answers to many of these questions and addressing the current regulatory regime in such a way that we're assessing where gaps might lie in existing guidelines and working to address those in a systematic way. I think public-private partnership is a key aspect of defining the answer space here. And again, I think that's another strength that the financial sector has long exhibited. We have a posture of being regulated and a strong relationship with our bank sector regulators, such that we've seen this musical before, and we know how to kind of work our way around some of these answers. And then lastly, I would also say from a global perspective, we're seeing a lot of fragmentation right now emerge in the regulatory space. And for banks specifically, that can pose special challenges because we do have existing frameworks that apply. We are now seeing technology regulation imposed by jurisdictions like the EU, for example, with the imposition of the EU AI Act that sort of overlay sector requirements and To some extent, there are some questions to be clarified about the extent to which sector regulators pre-existing guidelines are to be applied within those kind of emerging rule sets. So I think a lot more questions and answers right now, but certainly we're well on our way to defining them.
Yeah, thank you for those insights. And I know Dr. Ravindran has to leave in about 10 minutes time. So let me take advantage of his presence and sort of take his insights on few of the other dimensions that we need to explore. One is, of course, like there are these cybersecurity risks and other risks where the bad actors use these very AI tools to increase the attacks, sort of machine-generated attacks continuously hammering the systems and putting the financial entities into a lot of vulnerabilities. So that is one area. Then second, for a country like India, can we really look at systems or where we can expand the horizon of AI, in terms of bringing the people use the language as a means to transact, do banking, language, or how do we use this technology to sort of help disabled people or people with physical challenges to do the financial services. Otherwise, they will feel the financial, they will feel financially excluded or they are not able to use it. So what incremental steps that as a country or a financial services regulator we should take to mitigate some of these incremental cybersecurity risks on account of AI, as well as what kind of opportunities it gives in solving some of the financial digital divide that it may cause otherwise. For example, use of assistive technologies, use of voice as a medium of banking, how AI can help us.
Sure. So actually there are two different questions. They're not two partial questions, two very different questions. So let me very quickly address the first one because I have a longer answer for the second. So yes, it's always been an arms race, right? So whether, earlier we were talking about DDoS attacks, now they could launch attacks on IT systems. So then the technology, now that there is AI, people are going to start using AI, and we have to start using AI to figure out defenses for that, right? There is no like a magic bullet to do that. A lot of, especially in the financial sector, a lot of banks have already started, building their own defenses for AI-generated attacks and so on and so forth. So that is one part of it. The second part, in terms of inclusion, right? So there is so much that we can do in terms of making, services more accessible, right? So for example, you talked about language, right? So we are at a point now where we can start running pretty good Indian language models, thanks to the recent releases that came from Sarvam, that can actually run on the edge, right? In fact, now we are working on building tutors for children that are entirely driven on feature phones. So they don't need to work on a smartphone, they don't need a TV, they don't even need a display. All they need to do is listen to things on the on the feature phone, and then do like an IVRS-based interaction. So for example, we are able to teach them reading fluency, just by listening to it. So here I'm going to play back, I'm going to play a passage for you, listen to it, and then repeat it for me. And then I can score it on the thing. Or I can have a textbook. Read the third paragraph in your textbook, which is standard, the CBSE book or whatever. The child reads it and then you can evaluate it. So these kinds of just voice alone based services are becoming a reality now, and things can now start run more and more on the edge. So in terms of accessibility in that way, right? In actual, difficulty using digital systems and so on and so forth, I think that's going to slowly go away. And some of these models that we have been building in India, right, are actually pretty capable in talking in Indian languages, right? So I think that's one thing that we're going to get. But there's also another point. I think I've also talked about this with you in the past also. So with our UPI infrastructure, there is so much very small level, micro level transactions that are being recorded, right? So we have data at a granularity and the scale that's usually not possible elsewhere. And we should start thinking about, new ways of utilizing this to increase the inclusion in terms of financial services. And earlier it wouldn't have been possible because the frequency with which the data is being gathered, the volume of data that's being gathered is so much. But now with large-scale AI techniques that are available, we should be able to process these data more efficiently and use these. I mean, this is something which is not a problem else. People are going to look at because they don't have the data. So it's something that we have to do it here, and we have to start doing the research here to start building the inclusion. So both in terms of accessibility, but also in terms of using newer financial data that was not available earlier. So all of this can enable inclusion in AI.
Thank you. And before I think we'll let you go, I'll just do a quick follow-up. There are a lot of deepfakes and sound spoofs which are coming our way. And once we are embedding, let's say, in the video KYC process, how do we really, are the technology strong enough, good enough to detect deepfakes, or there are still challenges that we need to overcome? A quick follow-up and then.
Sure. There are technologies to handle the most obvious deepfakes, right? And but then the really cleverly engineered ones are still a challenge, right? And also, if you start talking about deepfakes in Indian languages, that is still a challenge. There are very few people who are actually building products that you can use for doing deepfake detection in Indian languages. And particularly if you start going to code mixed language, right, where you speak Hindi, English, or the Tamil and English together, or something like that. And now that becomes even more challenging, primarily because we don't have enough data to train these models on. So there are teams around India, particularly IIT Jodhpur and IIT Madras also, who are actually trying to solve this problem. And but it's still a long way to go. The best way to think about it right now is, well, you always have to assume that there is a non-zero chance that you're interacting with something that is deepfake whenever you go online and do any of these interactions.
Thank you, Dr. Ravindran. I think we need a big clap for him. So that allows me to shift my table so that I come closer to my panelists. And let me now turn to Dr. Chan. And all said and done, the AI is a probabilistic model. It's a non-deterministic model, and there are bound to be some mistakes along the way. So how do you see internally how the governance should look at embedding AI within the organization? And we also understand that traditional audit models would not probably suffice to embrace this new technology. So how do you see these challenges, and what are your thought process how to address them so that this new technology is adopted in a responsible manner within the organization? Quick thoughts.
No, that's a very important point. As the AI journey of the bank has been, the first and foremost to have a AI policy per se, which defines the contour of the usage of AI. Because AI is no doubt a very powerful tool, but there are, constraint or limitation that also we need to be mindful while rolling out AI. See, specific, in terms of the usage of AI, typically low ticket, low probability, high success thing, normally the AI can do end-to-end journey. Cases where the risk is less, these are low ticket transaction, we can do end-to-end with regard to the AI journey. But cases where the probability maybe there is a high risk element therein, I think while designing the AI policy, we need to be mindful that the human being, they are in the loop and they are in control. So unless and until the journey where the ticket size is large, the probability may not be that high in terms of rolling out end-to-end kind of a journey, then we have clearly we have put the human being at the control. AI can assist you, AI can support you, but the decision would be that of the human being. That's very clear as far as our usage is concerned. The bigger challenge when we rolled out AI usage for last many years is how do you do the auditing part, and that's the the fair point that the auditing on the AI can be on multiple level. It can be at the level of the data level. It can be at the level of the model level. It can be at the rollout level. It can be post-rollout, the outcome level. So the kind of auditing teams internally we have, possibly we need to upskill them significantly to do all this kind of auditing. And the auditing can be done by the internal team or can be external support. But that's critical because the usage of AI has to be duly audited so that the outcome is not something, as the earlier point of the trust, as banking and trust is the same. Similarly, the usage of AI in banking, the trust element should be maintained. That's something we think very, very clearly as a bank when we rolled out AI. We have been using the governance model with the real use in terms of the considering the limitation part. What's critical here is that it should be a decision support system, may not replace human being. It can only assist human being for an outcome. And the idea is to improve productivity, efficiency, and I think we are deriving that. Only one point I'll pick it up from the earlier point to Professor with regard to the language, how the AI is being used. We have recently deployed, that is covered in the media also, we have recently deployed a communication AI model, which is called Bob Sambath, Bank of Baroda Sambath, where any customer can speak in any language. And my employee may not be, conversant with the language, then the language of his choice, my employee can understand through this AI model. Similarly, my employee talking in any language, the customer can hear the language at which the customer would like to hear. This is like Aditi is one of, again, a unique experiment Bank of Baroda has done. It's yet to evolve fully, but it's there to on a developing stage. And the bigger point on the entire issue is that suppose there are misuse of technology, it is only the technology can defeat the misuse, not. So that's what my thought on the question.
Yeah, thank you. And in the committee report also, we have articulated certain stance with regard to the need for a revised approach as well. So coming to Mr. Debrag Banerjee next, traditionally AI is also, been associated with some of the risks, traditional risks such as the bias, lack of explainability, or rather I would say understanding what it means to the customer, what it means to the institution. So while building models and using AI in the workplace, how do we really, take care of this kind of risks in terms of bias, hallucination, auditability, accountability, and sort of explainability? So what would be a practitioner's practical recommendation, to embed this or factor this?
Yeah, so bias first starts from choosing the variables that have bias, right? So we need to be careful, first of all, to be to pick only those variables that does not single out the particular portions of the population that might get unfairly treated or has had a historical unfair treatment, which can lead to contamination of human bias into machine learning bias. Now, after having chosen variables right, then the question is, are we treating the rest of the variables in a way to produce features that make sense? Now, if it is possible to explain why certain features are the basis of a model, whether it is in the form of a natural gut feel human understanding, or whether it is in the form of importance values, Shapley values, and so on and so forth, that organically come out from the model representation itself, that brings out explainability in models. Then the next aspect is, at the end of the day, even a machine learning model is built by a human. So is there any either bugs, unintended, intended, living bias of that person's own life experiences that may be leaking into, or is it that just mathematical statistical errors are creeping into it? So for that, what we created is a completely separate model risk management structure that actually do not even mesh into my organization. It stays organically separate, keeping them completely independent in doing their own statistical evaluation and coming up with recommendations of anything that they see is slipping. For example, a model may have been created a few months ago, a few quarters ago, years ago, perhaps even, and natural, aging, the natural progression of time may make it invalid, and those need to be monitored from time to time. And if necessary, challenger models have to be created, A/B tested, and then the best models picked. And then finally, when it comes to the compliance to the ability for a decision having made, the gold standard is this, that if you are able to explain that this is the reason why I have decided this loan to be approved, disapproved, this rate of interest, or so on, so forth, then that means you are able to fundamentally satisfy the criteria for fairness and transparency. And today the science of statistical explainability has progressed to a point where those things are possible at a minimum for structured data models. Now, what we are increasingly seeing is that the transformer-based models that inherently has multiple parameters, they also can be subjected to a similar methodology where you can have a governance model looking on top of an LLM model and then coming up with explainable drivers for the decision that has been made. So we are putting all of this together. Now, obviously, it is a journey, right? And one thing I would laud the government of India for is that the guidelines that are being developed from the free AI and subsequent guidelines actually encourage that innovation. And that is very important because we are in an early stage still in where AI will take us. And unless we do this, and unless we incrementally experiment this on the field, we are not going to get to the maximum potential of what AI can do while keeping us within the bounds of risk, explainability, compliance, fairness, and transparency.
Yeah, thank you. And I think in our report also, the committee report, there is one of the design principles that we have talked about is innovation over restraint. And the idea behind that is to nudge. There is some certain degree of apprehension among the financial institutions as to if I do this, if there is a mistake, what happens? So everything else remaining same, we would urge institutions to take the innovation route, experiment lot, build controls and compensatory checks within your product approval process, rollouts, and then roll out those products. Yeah, coming back to Tera, you have, as I said, you have been operating across various markets and the rich experience from various jurisdictions. If the AI regulation, the way AI is regulated is fragmented across jurisdictions, it creates a very different challenge for a global player, global institutions. And this fragmented approach, of course, is a very difficult to manage as well. So would you recommend or would you suggest that there should be a global baseline kind of a governance framework that emerges, which each country adopts, and then on top of that they add their layer of additional add-ons depending on the country-specific regulation? And if that is the case, then which are the agencies or entities suited, let's say the Financial Stability Board or the BIS, or would they work closely with entities like the IMF, World Bank, and various global players and come to a conclusion which should set out the baseline standards and provide some guidance for the entire financial services industry? That is one area. And if at all you think in those lines, what could be the elements of such baseline governance standards? Any thoughts? I know it's a difficult job to answer on the spot, but to have your thoughts.
Sure, it's a great question. And I want to return to the last question and say just one brief comment before addressing that one, which is to say that I completely agree with the premise that some of the risk management constraints imposed on banks are actually, I think, falsely characterized as antithetical to innovation, when in fact it is often the case, as is the case with transparency innovations in the field right now, that banks are sort of leading the field in defining what the cutting edge looks like. And I think explainability and transformer-based models is a great example for that, where the research field, I think, is really being defined in large part by institutions like banks that have a responsibility to present that sort of audit trail while also delivering value for their customers and innovating at the cutting edge. So I thought that was a great point and just wanted to emphasize it. With respect to your much bigger question about global governance, this is the key challenge of the field right now, really. I mean, I spoke a little bit to this harmonization challenge in my previous response, but just to kind of further detail some of what's happening globally now, I think we've actually entered an era in which there's a big push by countries in the direction of sovereign AI, building their own tech stacks. Regulators are increasingly interested in differentiating themselves on the basis of creating different types of rules for AI regulation. We see this, the prime example for this right now is happening in the US setting, where the US Congress has essentially given priority to the states to regulate. And we're seeing that happen across all 50 states in somewhat different ways right now, creating a patchwork of regulatory requirements that make it really hard for even national organizations, let alone global ones, to operate, as you mentioned. So I think it's a key challenge right now in the governance space. I do think it would be useful for there to be sort of a global framework baseline set of requirements defined in the way that perhaps you're suggesting. But I actually think that the prudential banking regulatory system and bank requirements more broadly are a really excellent example for where we've done this in the past. We have empowered local regulators on sort of a baseline of shared characteristics and requirements that allow for a global financial ecosystem to operate fairly healthfully. We have a regulatory ecosystem in which diverse regulators share notes with each other. We have interoperability requirements that allow for transactions to take place on a global basis, and for banks like us here at JP Morgan Chase to operate in over 100 countries globally fairly successfully. Now the question then becomes whether we can do the same for AI. And again, I think my answer to that question, and your really good one posed about what those baseline requirements should entail, go back to what I said before about how they need to be technology neutral requirements imposed on a principles-based manner. We really need to be thinking about having risk-based frameworks that allow for diverse use cases that are all addressed according to the risk of those individuated use cases, instead of regulating technology broadly as defined as such. So that would be the starting place to my answer to that very hard question.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think it has to be a point well taken. It has to be principle based and instead of technology specific. And traditionally in India, all our regulations have been sort of tech-neutral approaches. And maybe AI is such a transformative technology, there may be certain nuances that need to be brought in for AI to give the regulated entities the additional degree of comfort that they might need to embrace this one. So we are closing in on time, but I would have my, there are two questions I would ask for a no, rapid fire, quick fire, say 1 minute answer each from all of you, the same question to all of you. And one question is on what for supporting innovation, using AI in financial services, what kind of unlocking would be required? What needs to be done? For example, I would say that whether there is a need for AI sandbox, whether there is a need for making labeled, clean data made available for the financial sector at a subsector level for the entities to build.
The AI journey is at the beginning, I would say, because unless and until the use cases have a significant outcome over a period of time. So I think the regulatory sandbox or all these innovations should continue. And there are two distinct advantages India is having. One is the demographic dividend and the kind of data you have. So I think the use case, the implementation would be much easier in a context like India. The second aspect with regard to anything that the policymakers should do further, I think as on today, India is right on the curve or ahead of the curve on the AI journey. But then two things again going to define our journey forward. We need to invest more. As a player, as a participant, we need to invest more. At the same time, India as a country, we need to create tech talents, which are important for taking us to the AI journey. So I would suggest for more investment and more tech talent on the AI space.
Yeah, over to you, Tara.
I think to the first question, I would say, honestly, regulatory clarity, and that applies not just to the sector, but to other actors that touch the sector as well. And I think we spoke to this to some extent at the beginning of this conversation in the context of the emergence of agents, which are interactions, you know, if you think about the e-commerce ecosystem that span far beyond the four walls of bank institutions and are going to call into question issues like the liability regime issue that you wrote that are going to require answers and swiftly in order for banks to be effective, responsible operators within that broader ecosystem. To your question about policymaker guidance, I'll sound a little bit like a broken record here, but I think bank regulators standing up and really defending their territory as the fit-for-purpose sector regulators of especially as the governance space gets increasingly crowded with other types of regulatory institutions stepping in and threatening that regulatory harmonization that we talked about. So I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Last words.
Yeah. So all AI ultimately stands on data. So to enable innovation, first and foremost, we have to make sure that our data is there, it's diverse enough, it's accessible enough, it is clean enough, it is governed enough, right? And then the other element that is often missed is the people element, right? So we need, India has a fantastic, young population, bright and strong, and the educational structure for strengthening the STEM and other skills to make them good creators of systems is very, very needed. And the government has a coming to your second question, government actually has a big role to play in both. So better data, more granular data, opening of sandboxes, letting financial institutions try out their models on anonymized, governed, guarded data, and then being sure that they can be partners in bringing forward things, and of course, better education and at STEM levels to bring up the next AI Nobel laureates from India.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I think that's just exactly coincided with the times up here. Let me just quickly summarize. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, Tara, for great contributions to this panel. A big round of applause for them. And probably at the beginning of the panel, the way we started, and probably we are leaving the panel with a great set of great optimism, outlook that there is something big and innovation and waiting to happen. We all realize that trust is the bedrock of the financial system, and all we need, both the regulators and the regulated entities, the various stakeholders, we need to act to further enhance this trust. We also need to innovate enough. Unless we play around with this technology, we will not derive the full potential. So let's play around, let's experiment, let's keep innovating. And that's the message. And we are all sanguine that next time we meet, it is more impactful than what it is today. And it's for the people, planet, and progress. That's the theme for India Impact AI Summit. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, for that insightful session. On behalf of the organizers, we have Meiti handing over the memento to all of you. We'll go from the extreme right side, Dr. Devrag Banerjee from L&T Finance Limited. Tara Leons from JP Morgan Chase. Dr. Devdatta Chand, MD and CEO, Bank of Baroda. Mr. Suvendupati, who was the moderator of this panel discussion, CGM FinTech RBI. And I'll take it on behalf of Dr. Balaram Ravindran, who had to leave early, and then we'll hand it over to him.